Of the Township of Morris this Wednesday.
This meeting is being recorded.
December 21st, 2022. The time is now 7:01 p.m. Madam Clerk, can we please have a roll call?
Mr. Ravitz?
Here.
Mr. Mancuso? Here. Ms. Wilson? Here. Ms. Guariglia?
Here.
Mayor Gyorfy?
Here. Will everyone please join us and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get into this evening's agenda, I want to welcome everyone for being here with us this evening. The last meeting of the year, we have a full agenda, so I want to make sure everyone kind of knows what the game plan is, because I know we have a lot of people here for a lot of different things. So before we get into our main business items, we will be first starting with the swearing in of our newest committee member, Donna Guariglia. Following that, we will be honoring our good friend and colleague, Peter Mancuso, on his tenure on the Township Committee. Following that, we do have a proclamation to recognize, followed by our first public comment portion, which is focused on agenda items. Following the first public comment portion, we'll then open to public hearings of ordinances that we have for adoptions, which are several. I believe we have 5 tonight. If you're joining us to speak on some of these ordinances, specifically for pickleball fees and 257 Mount Kemble, we just wanted to reiterate that the public comment portions during those hearings is the most appropriate time to provide your public testimony on that. And I also I know pickleball has been a big issue for our residents. I want to reiterate that the ordinance we're voting on tonight is just about the fees and registration, is not about the rules. The rules are promulgated by our Parks and Rec Advisory Committee and our Parks and Rec Department. The governing body does not vote on the rules of the courts. So just wanted to clarify that before we get into it. So we want to be respectful of everyone's time. So we just want to make sure everyone kind of knows what the game plan is from the get-go. So with that, we'll move on to our first item of the evening, which is the swearing-in ceremony for Donna Guariglia. So Madam Clerk, if you could please read the statement of determination for the November 8th, 2022 general election, certifying the election of Donna J. Guariglia for the unexpired 2-year term.
A statement of determination of the Board of Canvassers relative to an election held in the Township of Morris, County of Morris, and State of New Jersey for the election of certain municipal officers for the municipality on the 8th day of November 2022. The said board does determine that at the said election, Donna J. Guariglia was elected to Township Committee for an unexpired term of 2 years. She was duly elected to the office for the term set above. I do hereby certify that the foregoing is a true, full, and correct statement of the determination of the Board of Canvassers therein mentioned. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 18th day of November.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I'll now invite up Committeewoman for Mendham Township, Amalia Duarte, and the Morris County Democratic Committee Chair, as well as Donna's daughter, Julianne, up to the podium for the oath of office.
Oh, the wind chimes. The wind chimes are on touch.
Before we get into the ceremony, I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me. It's such a privilege to swear you in. You're going to be an amazing committee woman. All the leadership work that you've done with USA Hockey and advancing women's sports, as well as with the League of Women Voters. You have quite a track record of success, and you're going to bring all those skills to serving on the Township Committee. So I look forward to hearing wonderful things that you do for the community, and it's a real privilege to swear you in. And I would be remiss without congratulating and saying thanks for all the service that Peter Mancuso has put in over his many, many years here in Morris Township. I first met Peter down in the League of Municipalities after I'd first been elected, and I was down there feeling a little bit lost. Didn't really know a lot of people at that point. And Peter was so gracious. He invited me to crash the Morris Township dinner. And he was so warm and welcoming and funny. And then I want to say I went to that again the next year, maybe even the third year. They kicked me out. But no, really, congratulations on your retirement and your many, many, many years of dedicated service to this community. So, you know, I wish you well, Peter, and I hope you stay in touch. I'm not too far from here. So, thank you. Of course. Thank you for everything you've done. All right. With that, first I'm going to read the oath of office and then ask you to repeat after me. So do you, Donna J. Guariglia, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and will bear faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people, so help you God? I think you should now.
Yes, I do.
Okay, now repeat after me. I, Donna Guariglia,
I, Donna Guariglia,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly
that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly
perform all the duties of committee member
perform all the duties of committee member
of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris
of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay.
Good evening, everyone. We're now going to move on to honoring someone who's meant so much to Morris Township for a very long time. It's meant a lot to a lot of folks who are here with us this evening, and that's our Mayor Emeritus, Peter Mancuso, who has been such a great mentor to me and many of my colleagues over the past many years. Before I get into that, I would just like to recognize some past Township Committee members who are here tonight with us to help honor Peter. We have former Mayor Kathleen Highland, former Mayor Rick Watson, former Mayor John Murphy, former Committeeman Joe Calvinelli, and Committeeman and former Mayor Jeff Grazel, who are here with us this evening. I'd also would be remiss if I didn't recognize the Mancuso family, Lois, Peter, Tripp, and Rod for being here. Thank you so much. It's really nice for you to be here with us because we've stolen so much of Peter's time from you here down in Township Hall. So after I speak, I'm going to recognize Mrs. Highland to give a few words, and also want to recognize Senator Tony Bucco, who is here with us and knows Peter well. But when I was preparing my remarks for this evening and thinking how I can possibly sum up the total work that Peter has put in for Morris Township over the years, it was really difficult for me to figure that out and encapsulate it all. And when I keep thinking about this, my answer to this is, how did you serve Morris Township best? And that answer is really up to us for all the different reasons you've impacted our residents from different parts of the town, from different generations. We all have different stories and different topics we can talk about and how Peter impacted our lives. Peter's first stint on the Township Committee was from 1979 to 1987. And for those who know him, he calls that Peter 1 because he served Peter 2 starting in 2011 until now. And even though I wasn't alive during Peter 1, your years in office, your tenure, your tenure on the committee impacted not only my life, but the lives of those I grew up with in Morris Township. Because that's why I lived on the western side of town. And I'm reminded of this every time I go to the firehouse, but we have our map, the street map on our wall in the firehouse. And on that map, you have a line that says proposed Route 24. And that proposal of the road goes all the way through Morris Township and comes out by where Streeter Pool is now. And that was one of, if not the main reason why Peter got involved in politics back then, was to stop Route 24 from dividing our town in half. And as a kid, I rode bikes and walked to my friends' neighborhoods exactly where that would have been. And there are countless families who had no idea that was even going to happen, or will never know that was a possibility, whose lives were not impacted by having a highway go through their neighborhood or right through the middle of our town. And that's an intangible benefit that we all have. And I just can't get over how just that one issue that you started out in your earlier career has made such a lasting impact in Morris Township. I'd also like to recognize too, between Peter 1 and Peter 2, all of the different stints you've done on boards and committees. Our proclamation is about, I don't know, it'll probably take me 30 minutes to read, so I'm not going to do that. But let me just give you an idea of what else Peter has done since being a resident of Morris Township. Peter's been on the Board of Trustees for the County Hall of Morris, the Community Theater, and the Morris Museum. He was chair of the First Night Committee. He was the co-founder of the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Association of Morristown. He was director of my arch rivals, the Morristown American Little League. He was a board member of Morristown Memorial Hospital, the Madison YMCA, and the College of St. Elizabeth. And you were a coach for Colonial Hockey and the North Stars Hockey Club, and so much more. So as I said before, I got to know Peter during Peter 2. And that stint started in 2011. And I think my first interaction with him as an elected representative pretty much sums it up best. And that is after our election, when the governing body switched from being a Republican township committee to a Democratic township committee, you would think there'd probably be some division or divisiveness. And after that election, Peter reached out to me and asked me if I want to have some coffee and talk to him how we put the best interests of our township residents first and how we get business done for the township residents, regardless of our party affiliation. And to me, that sums up all of it. Peter's always been activating himself on behalf of our residents' interests. Party didn't matter to him. He cared most about what Morris Township needs. And that's why we're all so lucky to have had him serve on the township governing body for so long. So Peter, thank you for all that you have done for Morris Township. Our proclamation says it best. You have had a profound impact on our community. We are so lucky to have served with you. We've learned from you. We've went to you for guidance, for advice, understanding the historic context of certain things that not many of us would even know about. And for that, our town is better. So we are so grateful for everything you've done. Thank you for everything. We're looking forward to continuing to call you up frequently after this year for advice and consent. So with that, Peter, thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm going to invite former Mayor Kathleen Highland up to the podium to say a few words.
This is indeed an honor. I go back so long ago with Peter that.
Use the microphone,
Yeah, Mike.
Kathleen.
Sorry, it's my height.
You're a little taller.
There you go.
But I wanted to, well, first, he introduced the former mayor's former township committee. I don't think I served with Peter.
No.
No, my husband did though. And the seat you held, my father held for a while, but we could go on and on about the wonderful things he does. He was there every time anybody needed him, no matter what party, no matter where you were from. If you had an issue, he would always listen, because I've called him on a few occasions. And Rick and John Murphy, I forget who else is here. I think that's it. But it was an honor, Peter. You really have made my day many days when I looked to you for advice, because you were there for a long time before I got on there, and then you were on after I got off. So he's got a beautiful family, and they're all very, very close here. And I couldn't say any more wonderful things about you, because you are, without a doubt, a great man. You were a great township committeeman, a great mayor, a great husband, father, grandfather now of many, and a dear friend to many, many people. Peter, thank you. And I know John Murphy and anybody in this room that Rick Watson would echo those words, because they had the honor and privilege of serving with you. But good luck. God bless you, and have a wonderful new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Kathleen,
before I ask Peter to come, okay,
were it not for you and your sage advice, I probably would not have run against Bill Calvin in that primary. So I thank you so very, very much.
Before I ask Peter to come up here, I would like to recognize Senator Tony Bucco to the podium. Thank you for making time out of your busy schedule to be here.
It is certainly my pleasure, and thank you for lowering us down to those of reasonable height. You know, Peter, I sat there and I listened to them talk about Peter 1 and Peter 2. I think that's how they refer to the Pope sometimes. So, you're doing something right for sure. It is certainly an honor for me to be here. I've known Peter probably well over 30 years. I think I was 5 and you were 15 at the time, Peter. But you know, Peter's leadership in the township is just so remarkable because he served both in the majority on the committee and on the minority side. And to have the respect of both sides of the aisle is not often seen, right? Especially in today's world when, you know, one person from one party can get along and make things work with the party on the other side. That's not common these days. And Peter, you've done it miraculously here. I mean, you've gotten things done, your length of service to the township. You've touched just about every aspect of this wonderful municipality. It has your fingerprints all over it, and it will for a long, long time. And you know, you've been supported by your family, by Lois and your children, who have been there for you to allow you to do this and to do it well. And you have to have a supportive family when you're out there serving a municipality and having to go out to meetings at night. It's not easy. You miss a lot of dinners and baseball games and different things over the years because you were serving the township. And there's not a lot of folks that have spent this many years in a position to just make the municipality a little bit better than you found it. And in your situation, you made it a lot better, and you saved a lot of different things and created a lot of things that will last for many, many years to come. And you did it while being a great husband and a great father and a grandfather. As a businessman, you were successful in every aspect of your life. The true leadership qualities that not everybody is born with have shown through. And those God-given leadership skills that you have brought to the table every time have certainly shown through here and have allowed you to have a voice and to be respected by both sides of the aisle. And I think that is something special. And tonight, I'm honored to be able to present you with a joint Senate and Assembly resolution, which was introduced on the floor of the Senate by me and on the floor of the Assembly by Assemblyman Bergen, Assemblywoman Dunn, and hopefully your future Assemblyman here, Assemblyman Barranco. And it passed unanimously in both houses. You should be pretty proud of that, Peter, because not a lot of stuff passes unanimously in Trenton. So you're obviously doing something right. Congratulations, and God bless you. I know service is in your blood, and just because you're no longer going to be on the committee, I can just about guarantee that he will be out there in the community doing what you do best all the time. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Tony.
And I'll now ask members of the Township Committee if they'd like to say a few words, and I'll start with Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to just add to all the accolades how grateful I am to, I've known you for about the last decade or so, which I think coincides with Peter too. It's been such a joy to work with you as a member of this committee. And as I've told you many times, you've been a wonderful mentor to me. You've been a dear friend. And I've also told you many times, you remind me so much of my dad, who I loved really dearly. So I thank you so much for being one of the most kind and caring and gracious people I've ever met in my life. And I thank you for serving our communities just so well for so many years. And I will just miss you terribly. And I wish you all the best, you and your family, in the days ahead. And thank you so much for all you've done for our town.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Ravitz?
It's difficult for me to add to what the mayor and the senator and deputy mayor has already said. I can only tell you a personal story of my interactions with Peter and only Peter too. And I haven't known Peter as long as many of you in the room, but Peter and I have become fast friends. And as the senator had mentioned, it's in these days when you can, not just reach across the aisle and establish relationships, but actually have a common bond. It's something that's so incredible. And all of us we have somebody that comes into our lives. For sometimes it's more than one person, but somebody that comes into our lives and is so impactful on us that it just makes us better. And I'll tell you a story. Before I got involved in politics, I was sitting where you folks are right now, and I was watching how township government works. And Peter came after the meeting, as he always does, because he knows how to work a room. He came out and he introduced himself to me. He didn't know that I was even considering running. And I remember having this conversation, and I just had it with the senator a few moments ago, saying how important it is that we learn to talk to each other and not at each other. And he was like, yeah, that's it. He completely agreed with that. And then, he didn't know at the time I was looking to run, and I wasn't even sure I was going to run. And I'm like, oh, I got to run against this guy. He's such a great guy. And, throughout the campaign, it was, I think when we had it wasn't a debate, but our candidate forum, I remember the local paper describing it as a love fest.
Oh.
And it's true. I mean, we agreed on everything. I was just like, okay, how do I differentiate myself from this guy? And, I came back next year. I lost after losing, came back next year. And, here I am. And Peter and I, what a joy it is to sit next to you finally after a year or more on Zoom. But, to continue the friendship and he and I being able to talk to each other and hold each other's confidence. And it's a rare thing these days. And I'm truly better off from that. So, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and take this with you when you're going about your day. Be kind, like Peter. And if you can think about, what would Peter do, you'll find yourself making a lot of fast friends. So thank you, sir.
Thank you
It has been an absolute pleasure and an honor.
Committeewoman Guariglia.
So Peter, you and I have probably known each other the shortest amount of time, although it feels like we've known each other for a very long time. And we have several things in common, which you also have this in common with many of the township residents. And that is your enthusiasm for sports. And whether that's 10-year-old little leaguers or all the way up through our adult residents, Peter has always been a strong supporter. In sports, to commemorate an athlete's illustrious career, the symbol of retiring their jersey is widely known as the highest honor they can receive. The time, dedication, commitment, and working to ensure success for something bigger than oneself have always been Peter's priority. Peter has contributed to Morris Township, Morris County, the state of New Jersey, and his country for 21 years. Local public servants affect change at the first line of government. Even though local change may take a while to make it up to the federal government, the possibilities we create when we take a stand locally can create many ripples that actually affect the world. So Peter, to honor you, the Morris Township Committee, from all of us, would like to present you with a gift for your 21 years of service, and thank you for being the best teammate Morris Township has ever had.
Wow.
The game trip from now on, you'll know who I am.
Before I invite Peter up here to accept his proclamations, I want to invite any members of the public wishing to speak about Peter's impact on them. Feel free to come up, no pressure. But if there's any member, Mr. Calvinelli, come on up. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Mark, first of all, I want to thank you for the phone call and the personal invite. That was much appreciated. Peter, on behalf of my family and many people here, thank you for all of your service to the town, the township, and Morris County broadly. I was part of Peter 1 and Peter 2, and a lot in between. I first met Peter at the carnival. We were hawking 50/50s. He was hawking them. I was the bag man and counting the money. And my first recollection was I had $50 in my hand and he was working the microphone. And suddenly he announced that we had $200 in the kitty, but I only had 50. And I'm thinking, what the hell is he talking about? Go on. Now it's up to $500, but we're not there yet. Son of a gun, we got the money. The energy he created in that environment was second to none, and we raised over time over $250,000 that we were able to give to scholarships for students here in the Morris Township area. Fast forward to another little story where he corners me one day and says, hey, I need your help selling some tickets to an oldies concert. I own a marketing research company. I'm not in marketing. So I said I'd help. He said, I said, tell me a little bit about it. He said, well, we have 2,100 seats to sell. I said, how many tickets have you sold? It's in 2 weeks. He said, 6. I said, what type of budget do you have? He said, what do you need? I said, I don't know. What do you got? He said, would 2,000 do it? I said, I'll have to do it. We sold the place out. My wife, Eileen, who is here, wrote commercials. We ran them on 101.5. It was an oldies format back in the day. And we got 2,000 people into the seats. The point is he took nothing and made it into something and knew how to surround it, create an energy and just an excitement around the thing. The third story I want to tell is very important, and it goes to what Ms. Ravitz said and Senator Bucco has said. Back about 2 decades ago, and I've told this story, and some of you will have heard it before. Peter was running for state senate, and a meeting was held in his house. We had about 12 of us, and Peter had hired a high-powered consultant who had elected George Pataki. You remember that? Peter was losing in the primary election to Senator Bucco's dad by roughly 8 points, touchdown on a 2-point conversion, so to speak. And the consultant wanted to go very negative, and we all know negative politics works. We're 2 weeks out from the primary. Peter listened to what the man said, didn't say much. We all gathered around, and then the consultant pushed him. We want to go negative, and Peter said, no, we're not going negative. We all have to live in this community when this is done, and I'm not going to do this. It irritated the consultant, and the consultant confronted Peter and said, what do you want? And Peter said, I just want a fair fight. To that, the consultant blew his top, and the veins popping out of his neck, and he turns to me and says, fair fight, what's your definition of a fair fight? I wasn't prepared for the question. I said, the Army-Navy game. He said, he just like, oh, geez, what am I dealing with here? My point is this. It's up to the candidates to determine whether you go negative, whether you are a gentleman, a gentle lady, and how you run your campaign. If you abdicate that responsibility to other people, you get, in some cases, what we have right now throughout America. Peter was not that guy. That is the lesson. I was proud to work to try to get him elected. I'm going to fast forward. 2 days before Senator Bucco passed away, Senator Bucco was at a fundraiser for Peter before the most recent election against you, Mr. Ravitz. And they were talking and they were commiserating about all the things that they had accomplished, worked together in the 2 decades since that moment. That kind of working together would not have happened had Peter done what a lot of people do. You just create a divide. That was my point. That was a story, and I've cherished that story to this day because it illustrates what a politician can do and should do. And it's up to them. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Joe. And we did get another public comment in virtually from Joanne Ferrari, who unfortunately couldn't make it. But she did submit a brief statement that she asked that we read. So here's Joanne's statement. Some of the things I've always valued about you, Peter, is your sincerity and depth of care for the township and its people. Your intelligence and broad knowledge have been admirable. Best wishes to you in the future in all of your future endeavors. That's from Joanne. I'm not sure, she might be on virtually. With that, Peter, I'll ask you to come up to the podium if you'd like. Sure. So we may present you not only the proclamation, if Senator Bucco, you want to come up as well. We also have a proclamation from the House of Representatives from Congresswoman Cheryl. Unfortunately, she was unable to make it tonight. She's at the joint session with Ukraine President Zelensky in the Capitol. But she sends her regards, and we have a proclamation from her for you. And we also have the Township Committee proclamation for you to hang, and we also have your nameplate as mayor. Do we have anyone that can take a photo?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much.
Which camera are we looking at? All the Mancusos have their cameras.
Hold on, wait, one second. Can't get by this without one of these. All right, you ready?
Ready.
Oh, that's going viral.
Mayor Emeritus, the floor is yours.
I have a rebuttal to everything that was said today, but I don't have the courage to do it. It's been a great ride, and I'll read most of this because I want to be sure that I get the exact right words for everybody. My credo has always been balance. I'm a Libra. Libras are balance. And in a bipartisan approach to government, which has resulted in an enormous amount of experience in dealing with the issues and challenges facing the town. In the past 2 years, the lone Republican on the committee, we have, through compromise, negotiation, and respecting each other's point of view, reached consensus on all of our actions. Individually, most important is that my focus has always been to legislate what is best for Morris Township and only for Morris Township. Fiscal conservatism has been my philosophy. In my 21 years as finance chairman, I have helped administration craft a responsible budget, especially in the last few difficult years of COVID-19. We have, during all of these 21 years, kept a maximum 2% increase in the township tax rate. I have to thank you, the citizens of Morris Township, for electing me to 21 magical years as a committee person. I enjoyed every day I spent as your representative, almost every day. I very much appreciate you having the faith in me to have elected me to the board on 7 different occasions. But all things eventually come to an end. With you all, nothing but incredible, I wish you all nothing but incredible success in whatever path the township takes. And I look to God's blessing in whatever direction it chooses to take. To my peers, it has been an honor and a privilege to work with you. The 4 of you, we were able to make partisanship work. I know nothing stays the same, but possibly our example will be continued locally, statewide, and by some miracle, nationally. Mark, Kathy, Bud, and Donna, you are as fine a group as I've ever worked with. And I wish you incredible success in the coming years. Tim Quinn, the finest administrator I've ever worked with, and possibly in the entire state. You are the heart of Morris Township. What you do to keep this ship on an even keel is unprecedented, and your expertise accrues to the benefit of all of our residents. There are so many more to thank. Joe Calvinelli, thank you, sir, for your words. Chairman of the Township Republican Committee. Senator Bucco, thank you, sir. Ann Grassi, Morris County Clerk. Laura Alley, Republican County Chair. John Mills, our former Township Attorney. Jared Cantor, our current attorney. Steve Werner, attorney to the Planning Board. Paul Phillips, our town planner. Jim Slade, our engineer. And all of the many devoted and incredibly hardworking employees of the township. I thank you all for being part of my life and this magical adventure. I will never forget you. Thank you. Trip, big boys do cry on occasion.
With that, we'll take a brief 5-minute recess, and then we'll gavel back in at about 7:45.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right, so if we can get through the rest of the meeting.
Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order. It is 7:51 p.m. Do we have to have a roll call, Madam Clerk, on that, since we're coming back?
I don't think so.
Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item is a proclamation where we're retroactively recognizing September as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. And just some perspective to the public, ovarian cancer impacts more than 21,000 women each and every year, according to the American Cancer Society, and only 39% of these women will survive 5 years with the disease. Approximately 16,000 women die each year in the United States from ovarian cancer. Do this and in support of Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, and as out of a request from a township resident, The mayor and township committee of the Township of Morris recognize the dire need and declared our support for increasing awareness to ovarian cancer and retroactively proclaim September as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. And we'll certainly have that on our calendar for future years too. So thank you for that. We'll now move into our first public comment portion. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Cantor. As Mr. Quinn moves the podium for public comment, we'll approve the minutes. For the November Township Committee meeting, may I please have a motion to approve the minutes from November 9th, 2022, the regular meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mancuso. Thank you, Mr. Ravitz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we'll go on to public comment. So currently we have 27 members of the public who are on with us virtually this evening, as well as members of the public here in person. We'll open the meeting to the public comment on agenda items only. For this portion, we'll have general public commentary at the second half of or at the end, the conclusion of the meeting. We'll take comments from in-person attendees first and then switch over to Zoom. If you are on Zoom and wish to speak, please virtually raise your hand to indicate you would like to speak. When you come up to the podium or speak through Zoom, please state your name and address. For the record, before speaking, please note that comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. If you do have questions you would like answered, your remaining time to speak will be yielded back for this purpose. Also, because we're voting on ordinances tonight, we have public hearings for each ordinance with their own designated public comment portions before the committee deliberates and votes. So I would encourage members of the public, if you wish to speak on an ordinance, to speak during the public comment session for each ordinance. You're welcome to speak now on agenda items, but in terms of flow and time, we'd recommend speaking during the ordinance public comment portion. So with that, is there a motion to open the first public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So if there's anyone wishing to speak, feel free to come up to the podium or raise your hand on Zoom. You can come up and form a line and then just speak. Please state your name and address for the record.
Can I discuss
The 257 Malcolm.
Yeah,
So we do have a separate public comment specifically for that ordinance.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say you can't speak about it now because it is on the agenda, but
I can sit down. I thought you
it's yeah, that's fine if you'd like to. I mean, if there's other items on the agenda you wish to speak about.
Okay, so I live.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Well, I mean, we're going to have a public hearing and we'll create a record on that ordinance. It may be better to have a complete record on that ordinance. You can speak now, but I mean, we're going to have, I think, quite a robust discussion on that ordinance at that hearing time. It may be more appropriate.
Is that later in this?
It's coming up very shortly.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I was
But again, you're welcome to speak, but I think it'll be more appropriate because there's going to be comments from the dais prior to that hearing, and then the public can certainly have input at that point.
Okay, so you suggest speak later.
Yeah, we'll call you up.
It's coming up quick. It's coming up very, very soon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no members of the public at the podium and no hands raised, is there a motion to close the first public comment portion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll move on to ordinances for public hearing and final consideration. We have 6 ordinances this evening. Again, for those coming up to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. I already went into the descriptions before. 5 minutes per speaker. If you wish to ask a question, we will answer that question within your 5 minutes. To be clear, we're happy to answer questions as appropriately as we are able to during your allotted time. If your time expires before you're done providing comment, we will mark your questions down and respond to them at the conclusion of the public comment period. Recognizing that we have a lot of members of the public wishing to speak, we want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to speak. If there are a large amount of members of the public wishing to speak, we may limit the public comment to 1 round per speaker. It depends on how many folks we have and how much time we have. So with that, Madam Clerk, if you could please read the title of the first ordinance into the record, and we will then open the public hearing.
an ordinance amending municipal code, chapter 9, article 5, entitled Open Space Committee, in particular, section 9-25, subsection F.
Okay, at this time, we'll open the public hearing for any comments from the public on this ordinance. May I have a motion to open the public hearing, please, for ordinance number 24-22?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any members of the public wishing to speak on this ordinance on Zoom or in person can come up or raise their hands. Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I now have a motion to adopt ordinance number 24-22 from the committee? Okay, and can you guys just put your microphones on, please? Okay, any discussion items or questions? Mr. Quinn, would you be able to provide just an overview of this ordinance for the public?
Certainly, Mayor. This deals with the maintenance of our open space. The township has a open space fund. There's a dedication portion of everybody's property tax bill that goes into that fund. Portion was raised back up to what it had been in the 2009 levels. The current ordinance prior to this was that we could take the year-end fund and take 15% of that to use for maintenance. The maintenance is a big cost to the township. We also take pride in making sure that all of our open space properties are maintained. We also have a number of issues that have to be addressed, such as the ash tree removals, those kinds of things. This would allow the Township Committee to use 50% of the year end of the previous years taken in to use for the maintenance of our open space properties, which are fairly significant around the town.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Yeah, the committee for this ordinance saw a need that we do have funds to purchase more open space, which we would like to do, but we also have a large amount of maintenance and restoration we have to do to our open space properties that we own. And so being able to utilize a larger amount of funds for active maintenance on these properties, we see as a need that needs to be met. And so this ordinance allows us to have those funds in future budget years. Any other comments from members of the committee on the ordinance? Okay, hearing none, Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 24-22 approved and adopted and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. Madam Clerk, if you could please read the title of the second ordinance into the record, and we will open the public hearing.
25-22, an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, amending Chapter 15 of the Township Code.
At this time, we'll open up the public hearing on any comments from the public. This is on updating our personnel policy. May I have a motion to open the public hearing, please, on 25-22?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any members of the public wishing to speak, raise your hand on Zoom or come to the podium. Seeing none online and in person, do I have a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I now have a motion to adopt ordinance number 25-22?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any discussion items or questions from the Township Committee? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 25-22 approved and adopted and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the third ordinance into the record, and we will then have the public hearing.
26-22, an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, amending Chapter 95, Article 2, Section 6 of the Code of the Township of Morris, zoning map to rezone approximately 2.66 acres of Block 5401, Lot 2, from OSGU zone to RA15 zone.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And to those joining us in public, this is the 257 Mount Campbell ordinance. To clarify, at this time, we will open the public hearing for any comments from the public. May I first have a motion from the Township Committee to open the public portion?
So moved. Second.
I thought we had to do the resolution first.
So Deputy Mayor, we're going to have the public hearing so we can, the idea was, since the resolution and the ordinance are so closely connected in substance, that we were going to allow the public input to be heard before we adopted the resolution. So we thought it was appropriate to get all the public comment in on the ordinance as it will also reflect on the resolution. And then we're going to pull the resolution out and vote on it before the ordinance. So we'll hear from the public before we make any vote on the subject matter.
So there's no separate comment on the resolution by any of us?
The governing body will have the opportunity certainly to discuss it prior to your vote.
And the resolution could have been commented on in the first public comment with agenda items since it's on the agenda. Because it's resolutions, we don't have, for every resolution, we don't have public portion. We have general commentary on our resolutions at each meeting. So
It was my understanding we were going to pull the resolution first and do that and then proceed with the ordinance, but perhaps there was a change.
So Deputy Mayor, I was part of that conversation. I thought it was if you voted on the resolution prior to getting the public input, we didn't want to have the governing body vote on the resolution prior to the public input. So the idea was to get the full public input on the subject matter and then resolve the ordinance, which requires that resolution. So that was a thought of having it, not pulling the resolution prior to the public hearing, but have the public hearing first.
So when the public is commenting, they're commenting both on the ordinance and the resolution?
I would say that they're one and I'd say one is with the other. So yes, I would have no objection to people who had comments as to the resolution.
we wouldn't have had two public comments periods regardless. It would have been the same, just one public comment.
I mean,
Regardless if we were voting on the resolution before this
Okay.
or after. Okay, with that, do we have a first and a second to open the public portion? Okay, is there a first and a second to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so again, I'll invite members of the public to come up. If you're on Zoom, please raise your virtual hand. I have the resolution after. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Cantor. So we will invite members of the public to come up and raise their hands online. We did want to provide a summary of the ordinance or the situation that got us to introducing this ordinance from our township attorney, just to provide some additional context to members of the public. And then with that, we'll have members of the public speak. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I believe my statement will kind of explain what the deputy mayor was discussing, how you also have a resolution on tonight. So I'll just start from the beginning. So ordinance number 2622 amends the Township of Morris map by rezoning approximately 2.66 acres, a portion of block 5401, lot 2, from an OS-GU to an RA15 zone. For the purposes of background, this property was the subject of a D1 use variance application to permit the development of 11 townhouse units. That application was heard by the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and the board's vote in December of 2022 was 4 in favor and 3 opposed to that 11 town unit application. But because it was a D use variance, it required 5 affirmative votes, and the D variance application was denied. Following the application denial, there was a lawsuit filed in Superior Court challenging that denial. That litigation was stayed to give an opportunity for settlement discussions to go on. In January 2022, the zoning board conducted a public hearing in connection with a settlement proposal offered by the applicant for the development of 4 single-family homes. The zoning board at that time denied the settlement offer by a vote of 3 in favor and 4 opposed. So the zoning board denied that settlement proposal. Following the zoning board's denial of the settlement, negotiations then commenced between the applicant and the township. That resulted in a settlement agreement, which was approved by resolution here on October 19th, 2022. Part of that settlement was to rezone the property, which resulted now in the ordinance that's tonight, which is 2622. That agreement includes a provision whereby the property would be rezoned, together with a new roadway to be dedicated to the township to serve those homes. In addition, as part of that settlement, the property owner has agreed to convey the remaining lands to the township so we can have parking spaces, and we could also have a parking for the Jockey Hollow Top Preserve. So this ordinance 2622 was introduced on November 22nd, 2022. It was then referred to the planning board. The planning board came back and said that the rezoning was inconsistent with the township master plan. NJSA 40-55D-62 allows this township committee to adopt the ordinance, notwithstanding that the amendment would be inconsistent with the master plan. That would take an affirmative vote tonight by the majority of the committee. In order for the committee to adopt it, they have to set forth the reasons in which why they're okay adopting it for the master plan. They do that either through resolution or they can do it through comment. All comments made from the dais tonight, along with the resolution, will be considered as to why they allowed amendment to be inconsistent with the master plan. So tonight we have also, excuse me, a resolution on, which will be voted on after public hearing, because we want to hear what the governing body wants to hear what the public has to say on this ordinance and the resolution. And it's resolution 238. And as stated in the resolution, there are a number of reasons for the township committee to look on this and favorably adopt it. First, as I mentioned, there was litigation of the zoning board's denial, which was never withdrawn. That litigation remains a potential, there remains the possibility that the zoning board's decision could be overturned. If the ordinance is adopted, we no longer have exposure to that lawsuit and the 11 townhomes that could be developed. Second, only 4 single-family home dwellings will be constructed on the entire 5.5 acres. This translates into a gross density of just 0.72 units per acre. This is a significantly lower density of what several adjacent resident districts allow. Third, the township will obtain approximately 2.9 acres of land that are ideally situated for open space, given their adjacency to other township-owned lands. The township will be the beneficiary of a public parking area to be constructed by the property owner and to serve new trailhead described. The township committee feels, at least if they pass the ordinance, that the zoning the property to allow 4 single-family homes with 3 acres being added to the township's open space inventory is the best realistic alternative, and it'll limit overdevelopment on this property. So the conjunction of the resolution stating the reasons and the ordinance to implement the settlement agreement, that's what's on the agenda tonight. And that is, I think, a thorough background of where we are, how we got to this ordinance, the steps that were taken at the zoning board, and what's before this governing body tonight. Mayor, if you have any questions or need me to elaborate any further.
Any member of the committee have any questions for Mr. Cantor? Okay. And we can certainly clarify any items from that summary to members of the public while they're up. But we have opened, we're good to open the public comment, so we'll go ahead and move forward with that. Just as a reminder to members of the public, please state your name and address before speaking so that we can have it marked down in the record accurately. We'll have 5 minutes per speaker. If you do wish to ask questions to the professionals, we will answer those questions during your allotted time. However, if your time expires at 5 minutes and you still have questions to be asked, we will do our best to get to those after the conclusion of the public commentary. So we'll see how many folks we have tonight. If we have enough time to do a second round, we will, but there is a large amount of people here virtually and in person. So we're going to do our best to make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak at the podium. So with that, I'll invite members of the public who are here with us in person to come up to the podium to speak. And we'll go with folks in person first, and then we'll go to Zoom, if that's okay.
So my name is Richard, last name is Gordon, and I'm at 229 Mount Kimball, and I received this map in the mail a couple weeks ago. I really haven't had the opportunity to address it because of some physical problems. But that being said, the 4 units will be abutting my property. So I'm really the only person in the town affected by this development. Approximately 15, 16 years ago, I bought this land. I bought a small house, 2 bedrooms on 7 acres of land. I bought it because my wife insisted I buy something that was private. So the main attraction here was privacy. So I bought a house, atypical house, spent a lot of money, and I wanted privacy, which I had. 3 years ago, I listed it to sell. The realtor said it was going to be very, very difficult to sell because it's not a conventional 4-bedroom center hall colonial. Anyway, bottom line is listed it twice, almost a year and a half, no offers. And we listed it for almost $250 less than what I paid. When I found out about this development, I spoke again with the realtor and asked her what her comments were. And she said, well, now if you try to sell it now, you're going to have to lower it another couple $100,000. And you're probably not going to be able to sell it at that price because now your privacy is going to be gone. You're going to be sitting on your porch looking at the trees are all going to be cut down. The trees are going to be, it's going to be excavated. Trees will be gone. You'll have no privacy. So I'm going to be impacted negatively from a financial perspective by a couple $100,000. And I think it's totally unfair. The township gains, the developer makes money, township gets something, and I get hurt from a financial perspective. And I can't accept that. I say I'm not against the development, but I should be compensated. Otherwise, I'll appeal any kind of decision in favor of the project. That's it. I don't know. I've never been to this. I haven't spoken to any council, but that's my position.
And we certainly appreciate you coming out to
And
to
I
speak
think
to
everybody
us.
on this sitting here would agree if they were in my place, they'd be concerned too, and they would feel that they've been taken advantage of. That's all. I'm not used to this.
That's okay. Thank you for your comment. I mean, just to respond, I mean, we're concerned as well for the potential for 11 townhomes to be developed there as opposed to 4, and to prevent
Why should I lose money and everybody else gains? You make out with your free parking lot. The builder makes money, and I'm going to end up losing $200,000 to $300,000. Is that fair?
Again, we can't control that. What we can control is not having 11 townhouses be built there. So we decided to settle because of this, the reasons I can't answer that question.
So I don't have any lawyer. What would you do? Tell me.
Mr. Gordon, you should be up at the microphone.
Okay. I mean, what do you think is fair? Do you think that's fair? I mean, would you all be happy with that scenario? Would you accept it? Would you? Answer. Let's go. How would you feel?
I don't think anybody's happy when they take a loss on selling their home. I mean, to be
Okay,
honest. I
so
think
you're
nobody-
gonna
but I don't-
rezone, and I get impacted, and you're
Mr. Gordon,
content,
can you
and
please
that's-
direct,
and that's
can you
fine
please
with
direct all
everybody?
your, I'm sorry, can you please just direct all your comments to the chair, to the mayor?
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, okay, so I lose out and everybody else gains. Is that fair? Fundamentally fair? That's the question I'm posing to you, and I'd like people to answer me.
Sir, we provided the background and the reasoning why we're making this decision. And I'm not going to subject the rest of the township committee to answer to those questions. It's personal. We understand why you're upset, and we're just trying to prevent 11 townhomes from being built on this property, and felt that settling with a developer for 4, or the owner of the property for 4 single-family homes is the best thing
Okay,
for the community.
so let me ask you this, since I don't have counsel. Is there anything the township can offer me, maybe a tax abatement or reassess my property as the value is going to depreciate?
Mr. Cantor.
Mr. Gordon, there would be no compensation. There's no condemnation. There's no diminution on behalf of the township based on this. But you certainly can, consult an attorney. I'm not your attorney, but our perspective would be that there really is very little the township can do in that regard.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it, sir. And if you want to reach out, feel free to reach out to Mr. Quinn in town hall, and he's happy to have that discussion with you. Mr. McAlpin.
My name is Alan McAlpin. I'm at 5 Armstrong Road. I was involved as an objector to this application, and I've been involved for the last 3 years. That's how long it's taken. I'd like to start by mentioning that the amended Morris Township Housing Element and Fair Share Plan, page B5, reveals that 257 Mount Campbell Avenue contains 4.9 acres deemed severely sloped of a total of 5.55 acres. That's 88% deemed severely sloped. This determination was made by township professionals. Please note, these township professionals are not hired guns employed by any interest. They are independent. Accordingly, for reasons that hold safety and environmental concerns paramount, severely sloped terrain should be as severely limited as to traffic and human activity as possible. And I cite the transcript when I say that. Applicant here stated his early intention was to build an RA 130 single family residence on the property. That would have been conforming. Somehow he changed his mind. And you have to wonder, was his first instinct the best decision he failed to make? It seemed to me when I look at the reasoning for this particular ordinance, it comes down to just three things. And the intention was to act in the best interest of the township, but that's meaningless where the focus is incomplete. There are three issues that are frequently mentioned for doing this. First of all is avoiding lengthy and expensive litigation. I think that that's not apparent. The applicant terminated his appeal 13 months ago. And since then, his actions has sabotaged any hope of his resurrecting an appeal. I can detail that if you need. So the perception that a lengthy and expensive litigation would occur is currently not apparent at all. The second reason involved expanding recreational opportunities. And certainly this has that element to it. But frankly, this can be done elsewhere as well. You can expand recreational opportunities elsewhere. It doesn't have to be here. And I would remind this board that you had a couple decades to buy this. And it's sort of interesting that only now, in retrospect, you're interested in getting involved. So expanding recreational opportunities could be elsewhere, and your past experience would indicate you have the capability of doing that. And lastly, retaining 2.9 acres for open space. I would mention to you that just following the zoning law, by allowing it to be OSGU, which is what it is, thank God for planning board, we get 5.55 acres of OSGU open space, and that's bigger than 2.9. So there are scant benefits at best with this proposal. And the benefits, and I think we have to ask, are those scant benefits worth the associated liabilities here? Will the proposed ordinance, so retroactive by design, cause degradation to our zoning laws, purposed to protect all residents' property rights? Does the proposed ordinance barter away individual rights under the thin veil of township best interest, whatever that can be? In another setting, does the proposed ordinance amount to a kind of larceny with property owners as victims? Is the integrity of our master plan at issue as well? For the benefit of the public, our planning board finds this ordinance inconsistent with master plan law.
And Mr. McAlpin,
Is this,
you're at
is
5
our,
minutes, so I'll just ask if you could wrap it up so we can have other speakers. but you're at 5 minutes. So if
I'm
Thank you.
winding up here,
Okay.
if you will be so kind. A few more sentences. Is our judicial system disrespected hereby? In that regard, will planning board and zoning board of adjustment become just an interim step towards getting application approvals? Will the township's reputation as ready, some say too ready, negotiator be both amplified and advanced? Would the passage of proposed ordinance provide a clear trail for other applicants not satisfied with the township judicial findings? And why would the uncertainty so unleashed not contribute to moderating township property values most everywhere? I encourage anyone who becomes disadvantaged by this ordinance, so very retroactive in its nature, to seek recompense. The proposed ordinance 2622 may easily spawn liabilities for our township. These liabilities may very well become difficult to reverse later. I urge the committee members to deny the proposed ordinance 2622 in favor of placing our precious laws well above chaos. Open space should be open space. There's far more at stake here than just 257 Mount Kimball Avenue. Clearly, you have heard me. Thank you. And I will thank you again to mention, if you have time, what you think I'm missing here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. McAlpin. We
I have
appreciate
one
it.
question, Mr. McAlpin.
What?
Could you reference the, what was the document you referenced in the beginning? That
Amended Morris Township Housing Element and Fair Share Plan, page B as in Bravo,
What
5.
year?
It lists 257 Mount Kimball Avenue. That was a 2018 document, I believe. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAlpin.
Julie Winter, 210 Mount Kimball Ave, and I apologize. I had a recent neck surgery and my COVID shot, so I'm not feeling the best today. I recently watched the 2019 Planning and Zoning educational video found on the township website. In the video, our attorney stated, the board members are appointed to serve the public interest, to be the citizen resident finders of fact in land development applications, to represent us and our interests in a global sense as a municipality and as neighbors. So I asked, why is the Township Committee really willing to override the BOA with regards to rezoning to 57 Mount Kimball from OSGU to RA15? Since 1997, there have only been a handful of appeals and we've won them all. Did you know that the 2019 zoning map posted on the township website does not show 23 RA25 homes adjacent to Deer Haven Jockey Hollow Top Preserve? I question how RA15 was selected. And this is, I got this off the web. I'm sorry, I don't have.
We have to submit to.
It highlights.
Just the top.
They're all the same. This is the only one that's colored. This is not reflected on the zoning map.
The blue.
They're already 25.
Mr. Cantor, do we need to make a note of that in the minutes?
If we're going to accept it, sure, you give it, we can hand it to the clerk.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Pass the colors. Yeah. And then
Madam
you can
Clerk.
take one underneath.
You can go ahead.
okay. The developer created his own hardship by purchasing property and intentionally tried to develop it with plans that was inconsistent with OSG zoning. Not only is the township willing to override the BOA, the township is rewarding the developer by purchasing half of the property. The half is not buildable. And to top that, the township is planning to build a new trailhead and parking. So the developer now gets what I imagine would have been deemed a private road. Now it's a public road due to the parking. So his road to the new home gets paid for and the road gets salted, plowed, and maintained forever. I would like to remind you that there are 2 paved parking trailheads at the top of the preserve. There is also an existing dirt road across from Frederick Place. This is the Mount Kimball Ave trail access. Drive up 20 feet, turn right, and it looks like there's plenty of room for 4 parking spots. if you remove the thorny invasive shrubs. In fact, I would volunteer to cut the shrubs in the wintertime. I would rather use the funds on improving what is already there and developing new trails at the top of the preserve in the section that has no trails heading over towards the 257 property. Not to mention, it would be another good Eagle Scout project. This is another one from the town, and this is the area that has no trails right next to the property.
And we'll have the clerk.
257
mark
was
that down in the
rezoned.
notes. You can go ahead.
Okay.
And you're about
257
you're
was
at 3:30.
rezoned from RA 25 to OSG in 2006. Why didn't we purchase the property back then? From articles I have read, I believe Deer Haven and Jockey Hollow Top Reserve came about because their water runoff goes to headwaters of Great Brook and the vernal ponds that were recently revamped off of Tiger Lily Road. When asked previously, no one could recall why 257 was rezoned to OSGU. I suspect it was something to do with protecting the downstream watershed from additional stormwater runoff. Not quite as protective as being included in the preserve, but still offering protection from impervious development that might occur if it was protected under OSGU. In summary, keeping the property zone as OSGU was consistent with the master plan by our goal number 1, preserving low density character of the neighborhood and protecting key land. Goal number 2, minimizing pollution by reducing stormwater runoff and preserving trees. Goal number 3, preserving and enhancing historic sites and recreational sites as the property is located in Pruitt Town, a National Historic Site, and the trails could be expanded very easily. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, just know for the public, we typically don't take documents during the meeting. They should be sent ahead of time. And if you want to approach a day, just please ask the mayor for permission at a minimum. Thank you.
Okay. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, hi, my name is Amanda Wolberg. My address is 249 Mount Kimball Ave. So my property butts up right against 257. I bought my property in 2008. My reasonable expectation was that the township would uphold its zoning laws. It's currently zoned that if there was a house there, there would only be allowed one house on the property. And I don't understand why it's being rezoned to allow more. The owner has tried to go through the Board of Adjustment and was denied being allowed to build. Why is the township looking to reward people who want to go against the zoning laws? How could this be in the best interest? You mentioned, well, it's better than 11. Well, why would that be the option if it's done, like if the Board of Adjustment voted against it and everybody was like, that was not an option. Why is the 11 the other option? Why is only building one house not the other option? I don't understand why that isn't being taken into consideration. That isn't that the other option, that we uphold the zoning laws?
If you'd like, I wonder if Mr. Cantor can respond in terms of what the legal system background is, if you're willing to yield time. Mr. Cantor, if you can explain how judges in the court system can remand applications back to zoning boards or overturn them.
I mean, specifically, and I don't want to get into this litigation because it's still an ongoing litigation, so I don't really want to give the town's full position on it. But, anytime there's a challenge, there's always the ability that the judge could remand it back down to the board it was sent for further discussion. It could reverse that board's decision. So any outcome is possible. And a litigation was filed. There was the potential, certainly in any litigation. And I don't want to speak on the merits of this particular litigation because it's still ongoing. We do have a settlement agreement, but obviously we have to implement that settlement agreement tonight, so it's not final. So I'm not going to get into the specific merits of this and the likelihood of success of the township or the applicant in that litigation. But I think one of the reasons stated was the certainty of how that litigation will be resolved, which is the compromise of the four townhomes and not the 11-unit townhome development.
But
Or
I guess
homes, not.
I guess
sorry.
I'm trying to understand because, it keeps on it. The way that it's presented, it makes it seem like oh, that's more likely, but I trust the Board of Adjustment. I thought I trusted the process that we went through. And when each place has said that that doesn't fit with the master plan, or that doesn't fit with the zoning laws, or that is, in all the variances are against it, why wouldn't we just trust that they all did the right thing? And then why don't we say, okay, what are we afraid of? If everybody did the right thing.
We're not concerned about the Board of Adjustment. We're concerned about the court forcing us to
But-
take 11 townhomes.
But that's what I'm saying. Why would the court go against it if everybody did the right thing? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if everybody did the right thing, why would we be worried?
I mean, and that was only one of the several reasons given, that's in the resolution of reasons. There's also, the open space, the density. I mean, the density difference.
Right, but it would be like 3 or 4 times as dense in that one area. Yes, you're talking about the whole area, but you're like, it was that one house was supposed to be allowed to be built on there, and now it's being thought of 4 is okay. I just have an issue with that. So, thank you.
Thank you for your time. And again, like we've said, for our perspective, we want to avoid 11 townhomes from being built on this property. We think it's too dense, which is why we have the settlement agreement for 4 single-family homes. Any other members of the public in person who would like to come up? And then we'll open up to Zoom after. I see we have some hands on Zoom that are up.
My name's Steve Richter. I live at Armstrong Road, Morris Township. I've been a resident for 70 years, and I'm a member at Springbrook Country Club for 38 years. So I kind of have a vested interest in the development on the Springbrook Road property.
We're talking about Mount Kemble, not Springbrook Road.
Oh, you're not?
No, we're talking about Mount Kemble Avenue.
Only?
Across the street. Yeah, only. We're not talking about Springbrook.
Are you
This is just for the ordinance dealing with Mount Kemble.
Has
There's nothing on the agenda about Springbrook property.
Are you going to?
You can speak at the last public portion if you'd like to about that.
Yeah, I'll come back and speak on that
Okay,
one.
thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Mr. Goldberg, did you want to come up? Or I saw your hand raised. Sorry.
Lee Goldberg, 10 Arrowhead Road. Thank you for the time to speak on this evening. I guess my first question is, who ran point and who negotiated on behalf of the township on this settlement? Was that you, Mr. Cantor, or the mayor, or who was our primary point negotiator?
Our professionals handle that. And Jared, I don't know if you need to provide the overview.
It wasn't, I only got involved in the very end, negotiating the language of the settlement agreement. I didn't get involved in negotiating the substance.
So that would have been Mr. Phillips and Mr. Warner, maybe, who was.
I'm going to defer to our business administrator.
It involved Mr. Oler was part of that, along with presenting to the governing body what the options were. And then the governing body made the decision that we should enter into the settlement agreement.
And to clarify, Mr. Oler is our Board of Adjustment attorney.
And he's representing the township in this matter that's still.
Correct. So he presented to the committee and discussed options, but from when the applicant, in this litigation, who was negotiating with the applicant on behalf of the township? Was that also Mr. Oler?
He was part of it, but it's not an actual negotiation. They put it forth and it was brought before the governing body. We didn't go back and forth as to a, what you would call a typical negotiation. This was a litigation settlement.
Right. So if we wanted to learn precisely what the township's concern was with the litigation, how would we get that answer? Is that something that's knowable?
I mean, it likely mostly be covered by attorney-client privilege to the extent that it was there. I mean, it's deliberative. It goes to negotiation. So there's the thought process within the settlement agreement would be attorney-client privilege.
Okay, thank you. And then, Mr. Cantor, you had said that it's ongoing litigation, but am I to understand after the resolution and should this ordinance pass tonight, then that ongoing litigation is over, or is that an accurate statement?
So I don't want to misspeak. I'm going to say it's substantially over. I would have to review the settlement agreement to see if there's any outstanding items, but I would suspect. I do believe that the applicant needs to get additional approvals that are outside of this board's authority.
Okay, thank you. full disclosure, I currently sit on the zoning board. I was involved in the 2 denials. I sat through the planning board meeting where it was viewed inconsistent with the master plan. Sat through some 30+ hours of testimony. To the woman who spoke before me, to her point is, I hear what she's saying in terms of, the 11 townhomes, like this is being presented as, this is saving us from the 11 townhomes. When the zoning board finished their 2 denials of this, our notion was, we'll see you in court. That's fine. Sometimes you have to go to court, right? This, and then maybe the judge would remand it back to the zoning board to start again. But I would, I can only, can't imagine maybe the judge saying the 11 townhomes go in, but sometimes that's the risk you take when you have to go to court. So I don't really buy into the notion of that this is sort of saving us from the 11 townhomes. I'm here tonight to just simply urge you to please look into your hearts to deny this ordinance and vote no against it. I've been attending these meetings regularly for going on about 20 years now. Seeing all kinds of applications, all kinds of developments come through this committee. I would have to put this up there as sort of one of the more disappointing ones, to see this township committee overturn 2 zoning board decisions and also the planning board inconsistency. I know you'll address that with the master plan and why it's allowable, and these folks speaking on why they think it's appropriate. But this applicant pulled his appeal, I believe, a year ago. I believe that, if I had to speculate why he filed the appeal, it was to do a bluff just like this, right? So I'm very concerned about, the expectation that us residents have to uphold the current zoning laws. I think the applicant's bluffing. I can't think of a reason, like I said, for the appeal other than the bluff. The applicant's appeal did not, did it have a valid threat in it? I'm not sure. If a threat, should it be supported by the details in the original application and appeal upon which the application was based? If no details can be provided to that end about what the threat was, why the need for the proposed ordinance? It sort of does not make sense to me as a resident. I know there's other residents that it doesn't make sense to as well. I urge you to vote no on it. Mr. Mayor, when you ran for office in your first term, I remember the mailer. I remember you took a stand during that campaign on standing up to developers and development that was going on in the town. That was encouraging. What's happening here tonight is not encouraging, the way it's being presented. Mr. Ravitz.
Mr. Goldberg, you're over 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm wrapping up right now, and we'll hopefully be able to come back for a second bite of the apple, time permitting. But Mr. Ravitz, in just reading your press release this week, I was really struck by the quote that you provided, which you said that it was paramount that the public have a renewed faith that their local government officials represent the needs of their constituents and the township, not individual or groups with special interests. But if you vote yes on this tonight, I can't view this any other way than siding with the special interests and focusing on just the benefit of one particular individual. I get the open space, but this is going to be a trail that's going up steep slopes that maybe 20% of the population, might utilize. I urge you to vote no on this. It just does not seem like the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. And I'll remind members of the public to address the mayor and not single out members of the committee in future public commentary.
Mayor, if I may?
Yeah.
Mr. Goldberg asked when the dismissal will come. I just found in the settlement agreement. It's paragraph 4. It's within 10 days of the developer having received approval of the subdivision plan from the planning board. So it's after he gets his final approval from the planning board.
No, we're not. We have someone next.
Well, I'm not speaking to you, Mr. Goldberg. I'm just answering your question.
Come back and follow up on your comments.
Christopher Sherwin, 186 Mount Campbell. I'm just kind of curious about the policy here because it seems like you're bowing to a threat. And I think it sets a really bad precedent. And I understand your logic. 11-4 seems like a good deal, but not if you followed your own laws. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Leslie Wentz, 3 Armstrong Road. The only question I had was when you say convey, it sort of sounded like the landowner who's started this whole thing is giving us the land, but aren't we purchasing the land from him for open space?
Yeah.
He's not giving it to the township.
No, we
No.
can't accept that because that would be a conflict of interest.
So he is getting the 4 houses if it's rezoned, and then he's also getting money for the open space.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move to public comments from folks on Zoom. And I see Kathleen has her hand raised. So if our gentleman in the control room can start queuing up members on Zoom, that'd be great. And Kathleen, the floor is yours. And we can't hear you yet. We're not sure if you're talking yet, but you are in.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, Kathleen Pitt, 206 Kimball Avenue. I've lived on 202 for over 20 odd years. And for the board to think that expanding recreational opportunities right on 202 is a good use of money, I'm not so sure. It's a 40-mile-an-hour road, and getting on and off it would not be my first choice of where to expand recreational opportunities, number one. Number two is the boogeyman threat of 11 townhomes just seems to be, somewhat silly as far as what we're feeling. That's a steep slope, and I think even if it went to court, does the lawsuit even have any teeth? That would be, I'm kind of in Lee's court that this is basically just a big bluff on his part, that the lawsuit really doesn't have much that would favor, a court to say, okay, let's put in 11 townhomes. And would the guy even win? That's debatable. And again, I also was very aware of what the mayor ran on, which was, I'm going to fight builders. And so basically he's fighting his own committees, and he's fighting his constituents in favor of one particular builder that's going to make money. The steeps are so slope. I don't know if anybody here is a runner, if they know a famous run called Dipsy East. That trail is called Dipsy East. That is a very, very treacherous, deep, very, very treacherous, steep slope. And it just, if it went to court, I can't see anybody with zoning approving it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I see Mike Gutwillig is queued up.
Yes, hello, Mike Gutwillig here. 401 Mount Campbell Avenue. I've been a resident here for over 25 years, and it just seems like this is an ongoing major problem here with the lack of ability to uphold plans and zoning. I'm a registered architect, and when things don't work out for things that are not against the reality of way things should be planned and way things should be developed, that they should be turned down. And there's no reason why there anything crazy like townhomes should be built on the side of a mountain. And I totally think this should be completely overturned. And I think that the board has got a lot of problems, especially with this, and also with the problem over at 350 Mount Campbell. It's another same type of situation. Building on wetlands is a major, major problem. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir. I see next is Niall Guest Account.
Yes, my name is Patricia Niall. I live at 30 Skyline Drive, and I was very adamant against this last year, and I still think that it's not a feasible thing to change the zoning laws. I think it will open up the door to other zoning changes, especially what they want to do with the Springbrook, and it's not a safe area. It's not a very easy thing to do, and I think that If the gentleman did not want to build a single house for his family, why should we let him build more houses for his profits? It's just not right. If you denied it once, denied it twice, why would we go back and give it to him again? That's my statement.
Thank you so much for your comment. Any other members of the public on Zoom wishing to provide comment, please raise your hand. I see Lydia Amati up next.
Hi, this is Ray Sewick, Lydia's husband, and I'm opposed to the building on 257.
Sir, can you just state your address for the record, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, 192 Mount Campbell.
Thank you.
And I'm opposed to building on 257. We bought here and expect zoning laws to be upheld. I don't understand how we got sued, why we have to go back and allow 4 houses to be built, and we have the ultimate size. I don't understand how this works. It just seems kind of convoluted and circular. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, thank you so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it. Mark Fisher.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, it's Mark Fisher. I'm from 301 Mount Campbell Avenue. I'd like to thank the board for their time tonight and everyone who has given input. I oppose this ordinance in support of my fellow residents that are on Mount Campbell Avenue for all the reasons they stated. I do feel as though development is not a bad thing, but this sets a precedent that could become a dangerous thing if we are leading to other people, to other interests, instead of taking it to court to the full extent. This has been an ongoing issue for over 3 years, as people have said, and the township and our planning board and zoning board have done a good job of sending the message that this is not the right property for this type of development. So I ask that we tonight vote no for ordinance 2622. Have a nice holiday, everyone.
Thank you, Mark. You too. I saw some hands raised and then they disappeared. I think I see Jerry. I think I see Jerry's hand up, if we can recognize Jerry.
Hi, this is Jerry Kokoschka from 1 Armstrong Road. We've been here for about 22 years. I'm definitely in opposition to any ordinance that is inconsistent with our master plan. And I hope that our representatives will live up to their pledges to protect the community from developers. And I urge you to vote no tonight on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. Any other members of the public on Zoom wishing to speak? Dr. Siebert.
Dr. Lynn Siebert, 178 Hillcrest Avenue. I listened to all of these comments, and I have to say I agree with all of them. In opposing this, I would recommend that you vote no again for this particular resolution, because I think it really represents spot zoning, where you're really singling out a particular parcel of land for a use classification that's different from that of the surrounding area for the benefit of a single interest, single party. And I think that's a dangerous precedent, and one that can lead to having problems in the future where others will adopt similar tactics in order to get their way. I'm also concerned that, by sort of agreeing to a settlement, you're undermining the authority of the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Board findings and the master plan. And it can really cut into their ability to enforce regulations and zoning in the future. And finally, I would say that I'd be very concerned about any sort of extensive development, even 4 units as opposed to a single unit on a very steep sloped area. We all know that climate change is having a profound impact. The NJDEP has certainly been strengthening its stormwater management and water runoff regulations. And by adding impervious surfaces in an area that's obviously got very steep slopes, I think you are running the risk of damaging downstream properties, including the roadway itself. So I just, on many levels, I think perhaps this is a tactic that the developer is using to box you into a corner, and I completely understand and appreciate that you're trying to minimize the impact and help benefit the township. I have no doubt that your motivation is one that is of concern and that you're nervous about what the judge might decide. But I would think that the Board of Adjustment's reasoning and the master plan and the planning board documentation to date should give you ample strength to resist a negative determination by the judge. So I would just say, please reconsider and reject this and do not vote for it, because I think it does open a Pandora's box that future developers are going to take a look at and say, hey, this worked in Morris Township, why don't we try it? And we can get higher density or more development in places that we've been denied otherwise. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Sieber, for your time. Any other members on Zoom wishing to speak? Seeing none, is there, yep, there's one more member of the public. For the time being, member of the public wishing to speak, Mr. Grazel.
Thank you. Jeff Grazel, 1 Indian Head Road. 2 questions for clarity of the record. First is the proposal that's on the table today, is that any different than what was rejected by the Board of Adjustment, or is it exactly the same thing?
The settlement proposal, I think it's the same in concept.
It's the same in concept that was voted on by the Board of Adjustment. There's no changes to what was before the Board of Adjustment to what's being voted on tonight?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
The concept is saying 4 single-family homes on RA would be RA 15. And then our professionals work with them once they put forth the settlement to make sure that it was in the best location possible with least amount of variances that would be required.
Great, thank you. And the second question is regarding the vote. Given that it was before the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Board, does it require a supermajority vote tonight or just a simple majority?
We have an opinion that it just requires a simple majority.
And what's the reason why it doesn't require a supermajority?
That was the opinion given by our professional under the statute, that this would require a simple majority.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grazel. Any other members of the public wishing to speak who haven't spoken yet? We are approaching 9 o'clock. We have 3 other public hearings to do this evening, including pickleball and others that I know people have been waiting to speak on. So I move to just keep it to 1 round, unless members of the committee would think otherwise.
It would be my preference if Mr. Goldberg could finish his comments.
We can't allow 1 person to speak. If we're going to allow 1 person, we allow everyone. Yes, but if we're going to do a second round, we have to allow everyone else an opportunity. That could bring us.
My opinion is that a second round would be appropriate.
Okay. Any other members of the committee want to do a second round? Okay. We're going to limit to 1 because we have 3 other public hearings. There is the public comment portion at the end. We're at, I think, what do we have, 11 members of the public comment on this ordinance. So is there a motion to close the public portion?
Make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Mayor, can you take a roll call and closing the public hearing?
Sure. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Ravitz?
Yeah.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
No.
Ms. Guariglia?
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Seeing that, then we'll, I believe we have to have Jared, you want to talk about the resolution?
Mayor, as we discussed, we'd like, the resolution goes along stating the reasons for the ordinance. So, Mayor, we would ask that we have a motion to pull that ordinance, to pull that resolution out of order and vote on it now.
Okay, and I will motion to do so. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
And this is just voting on to move the resolution out of order, not on the resolution itself.
Correct. Okay, Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call on that to move the resolution out of order?
Mr. Ravitz?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
To move it out of order?
Yes, to vote it, to not vote on it with the rest of the
This is
resolutions.
resolution 238-22, resolution of reasons for adoption of ordinance number 26-22.
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia?
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy?
Yes.
And now, Mayor, you need a motion to pass, to adopt that resolution.
Okay, is there any discussion by the committee on this resolution before we vote?
First, move it and get a second on it.
Okay. I will move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
I have comments on the resolution, but I thought we were going to do that during the ordinance, but now we're doing it during the resolution.
Well, Deputy Mayor, you'll have the opportunity to debate the resolution and the ordinance. Either.
Okay, I'll make my comments on the resolution since that's what we're gonna vote on the resolution
Right
now.
after this, Deputy Mayor.
We're voting on the resolution before or after?
The resolution should be the resolution should be passed before we adopt the ordinance. So we pulled the resolution out. The resolution will be voted on, and then the next order of business will be to move to introduce to adopt the ordinance.
Okay, so I have comments on the resolution.
Okay.
The finding of our planning board, supported by the findings of our planner, is that for many reasons, the proposed rezone of this property is not consistent with our master plan. Having read a lot of this background information myself, I agree with that finding. Proceeding with the project deemed inconsistent with our master plan is highly unusual. The law does permit us to do that, but requires that we articulate our reasons. The best reason I see to approve this rezone is its relation to the total compromise package. The 3-acre open space purchase is a big benefit to the township, in my opinion. Another benefit I see is what I call the certainty factor. We know for sure what the future use of the property will be. We don't have to worry what a court may decide. But I see other considerations that are important as well, and they have to do more with the ordinance, which I'd like to explain those comments when we vote on the ordinance. So I do not support overriding this finding of master plan consistency, and that is why my vote on this resolution will be no.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wilson. Any other comments from members of the committee on the resolution? Hearing none, then Madam Clerk will ask for a roll call.
Mr. Ravitz?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
No.
Ms. Guariglia?
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy?
Yes. Okay, and then we'll now move next to the ordinance, which I need a motion to adopt ordinance number 26-22. And I will move that motion. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion or comments from members of the committee on the ordinance? And I know Deputy Mayor Wilson wants to speak. Any other members wishing to speak? Okay.
Speak at some point.
Great. So, okay, Deputy Mayor Wilson, if you'd like to go first.
Okay, thanks. Before casting my vote, I would like to comment on the factors and thought process that have influenced my decision. And I'm sort of picking up, I see from the summary that Mr. Cantor gave, and I'm sort of plugging in my thoughts on some of the events that have happened in the past. First off, big picture, what we're doing here as the governing body is taking action that overrides 2 decisions by our zoning board and 1 decision by our planning board. To me, this is a big deal. If I'm going to override decisions made by both of our land use boards, I need to understand what they decided and why. I did my due diligence on this. I looked carefully at the original application for 11 townhomes that came before the zoning board. My conclusion is I agree with the board's decision to deny this proposal. Of key importance to me was evaluating whether this application met the D1 variance criteria. I studied this carefully. In my opinion, this application did not qualify for a D1 variance. If I had been on this board, my vote on this application would have been no. Following the denial, the applicant filed the lawsuit, which I have also read carefully. The lawsuit asked the court to overturn this decision on the grounds that it was arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable. I disagree with the claims made in this lawsuit. In my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just reading it, my own personal opinion, this lawsuit lacks merit because the board's decision, in my opinion, to deny the D1 variance approval was correct. Before moving forward with the lawsuit, the applicant sought to reach an out-of-court settlement with the zoning board. Yes, they considered basically the same proposal that we're considering. And in its second decision on this matter, the zoning board rejected this compromise proposal by a 4-no, 3-yes vote. The applicant is now moving this proposal forward beyond the purview of the zoning board and asking the township committee to rezone the 2.5 acres to RA15, which thus allows the applicant to build 4 homes on that site with no need for further variance approval. That's where the next step was to come before the planning board. The planning board's task was to evaluate consistency with master plan. They found it to be inconsistent. I agree with that finding. And as I said earlier on the resolution comments, I do see other considerations that are important, and I want to comment on those. Just focusing on the 2.5 acre portion of this property, I've walked this site and thought about it quite a bit. I do agree you could fit 4 homes in this location. But the question I have to ask myself is this the best use of this site? For me, the answer is no. In my opinion, my own opinion is that from a zoning perspective, this site is best suited for what the current zoning permits, 1 single family home, not 4. From a variance perspective, the zoning board rejected the 4 home option as well. Stepping back, big picture, I think it's worth asking ourselves, why are we even in the position of having to consider a rezone at all? The answer is this whole situation is being driven by the applicant's need to construct more dwellings on this site than the zoning board is willing to approve, or that current zoning permits. This entire situation would end if the applicant were to accept what I think is the best solution to this dilemma. Sell 3 acres to the township for open space and build 1 single family home on the other 2.5 acres. The only obstacle to accomplishing this outcome is the applicant's refusal to accept it. The applicant no doubt has financial interests that are driving his choices and decisions. That motivation is understandable on his part. I'm very sympathetic to that from a personal perspective. But on the issue of whether or not to rezone a property, which to me is a big deal, it's not my job to accommodate this applicant's financial interests. By pairing the open space purchase with the threat to sue us if we don't comply with his demand to allow more dwellings on this property, this is the applicant telling us that we must accept his financial needs as a priority that trumps findings of our land use boards. I question that assumption, which leads to the key dilemma this situation has posed for me. Am I willing to approve an agreement that requires me to do three things? Override 2 prior zoning board decisions, both of which I agree with. Rezone a property to a use that I do not support and that our planning board has deemed inconsistent with our master plan. Accept the legitimacy of a lawsuit that, in my opinion, lacks merit. After thinking about it long and hard, my answer is no. I am not willing to vote yes to rezone a property when the primary cause of the need to rezone is to accommodate the personal interests of a single applicant who did not get what he wants from our land use boards. I do not like the message a yes vote on this deal sends to this applicant or to future applicants. I do not think a yes vote on this deal serves the best interest of our community. For all of these reasons, my vote on this ordinance is no.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wilson. Mr. Ravitz, would you like to go?
Hard to follow that one. I agree with what the deputy mayor has said. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness and the articulation by the residents on this matter. It really I don't like this idea. I don't like going against our zoning board and our board of adjustment. I think it does potentially set a bad precedent. On the other hand, I do like the fact that the township is going to acquire additional open space, which I think is important. The question then becomes, in my mind, how risk averse am I going to be if the developer takes us to court, and what are the chances are that we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot? And based on a number of discussions that I've had, and I'm not an attorney, and I'm not sure that we would win. And I understand that the case could be without merit and could be just summarily dismissed by a judge because the judge doesn't want to get involved in the town zoning board and whatnot, and it can be perceived as kind of bowing to the interests of a single developer, which does not sit well with me at all. So I'm struggling with this right now. I mean, from what I heard when we first took public comments a month ago, I didn't hear anything compelling that would make me want to, reconsider. But I've heard a number of things tonight, and I got to tell you, and I appreciate what the residents are, whether you're bordering it or whether you're speaking on behalf of our township boards. I'm right now. It's tough. It's tough for me. I will tell you that. I don't know in about 60 seconds or whatever it's going to be, depending on whether my colleagues want to weigh in on this or not. I think my vote is going to be a spur of the moment vote.
I'm happy to go next unless other members of the committee wanted to go.
If you want to go.
Whatever your preference. You can go ahead.
Just like Bud, definitely, and imagine I'm new and I come in and all of a sudden right out of the gate, and it's very important to me too, and listening to all the residents around Mount Kimball. I actually walked the property with Committeewoman Wilson. We went together and we walked the property. I struggle with this, and yet there is a part of me that, nobody has a crystal ball, so we don't really know what the outcome could be. And that's the hard part for me. It was easier walking in here tonight. And I'll be honest, my vote is to vote yes. And that's part of that reason. But obviously listening to everybody here and struggling with the same things that Bud is, I don't believe, and I know this is going to, people are going to moan when I say this, I don't believe this sets a precedent. I just don't. I believe that these individually, and sometimes making a decision one way, if it ends up being the right one, especially when down the road others come in, that's why those votes are much easier to be no, because we realize that what we decided this go around ended up being the right thing to do, as opposed to other parts of the township where we have to make those decisions. So again, I'm in that same place, but there's still this part of me with the open space and with having the discussions I've had with some of the other people. I think the tipping point for me would still be to vote yes on this, because ultimately I think at the end of the day, it could be the best thing for the township.
Thank you, Mr. Guariglia. Mr. Mancuso, did you want to say a few words?
It's a difficult decision, and I've been weighing it for the 2 or 3, 4 weeks that we've been talking about it. I feel that number one, getting the 3 acres of open space is very, very important. I think if we do the townhouse factor, that's overdevelopment. So to me, what's best for the township is what should be done. And that's my humble opinion, that what we're doing is best for the township.
Thank you, Mr. Mancuso. I don't disagree that with a lot of Deputy Mayor Wilson's concerns and the public too. I mean, I really appreciate everyone coming out for the second meeting or third meeting actually to talk about this. But knowing from what other towns have gone through in land use challenges, I am not confident that if we challenge this in court that we would prevail and be able to limit the development of this property. I would love to buy it for open space, but the owner won't sell it to us. We try to do that for everywhere else. I mean, Morris Township, our open space trust fund is well funded so that we can jump on opportunities to purchase open space for preservation and recreational use at a moment's notice, but we just don't have that opportunity from homeowners. So yeah, I would, in a perfect world, I'd love to buy it for open space and not allow it to be developed. But why I've said since October, to me, this is the best and most realistic alternative from preventing 11 townhomes from being developed on this property. Sure, we can challenge it in court, but see how other towns have gone in the court, in the legal system. I just don't have the confidence that we'd be able to win in court. And I don't have the confidence that we'd be sitting here years down the road where we wouldn't have any development there. I think 4 single family homes is reasonable on this property. I understand members of the public were bringing up the slope issue. That's not really a part of the ordinance. We're voting on the ordinance. We're not voting on site plan issues or slope issues, although it's obvious throughout the township that houses are built on steep slopes. Look at Springview Road or Tower Lane, Cherry Street. So for me, looking down the road, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can make an informed decision. And my informed decision is that I don't believe 11 townhouses or risking 11 townhomes being built on this property is worth that gamble in court. So for me, I prefer to settle with 4 single family homes. I think it's in the best interest of the township. And that's why I support this ordinance.
Can I add one comment to that?
Sure.
I was on the fence about that myself. And part of what tipped me to my opinion is that, I looked at a lot, there were a lot of hearings on the zoning board. And I read many of the transcripts. I studied up on D1 variants. I looked at some of the videos. I did a lot of homework on this. And in my opinion, the applicant did not meet the D1 variance criteria. And so the entire lawsuit is based on overturning a decision that it was close. There was a close vote. That's true on the zoning board. But as I read the zoning board's decision, my opinion was they made the right decision. And I find it hard to believe that a court would overturn that decision and tell us we have to build 8 townhomes there or 11 townhomes. I do think it's possible the court might say, you guys go back to the drawing board and work something out. But I find it hard to believe that a court would step in and require us to build 11 townhomes based on what I understand to have happened at the zoning board.
Can I ask a question, Deputy Mayor Wilson? If the court, if in what you see as if the court asking us to look at it again or work something out, what would that, what do you think would that would entail if it went back to the zoning board? If we're speaking hypothetically.
Hypothetically, as a hypothetical, I could see them saying this. Go back, talk to each other, come up with some compromise. Yes, and perhaps we would be back here. But I do not feel the same attitude about the potential of this lawsuit that you do.
I'm going to go back to, what I had said earlier, is just, I cannot predict what the court is going to do. And, we can watch as much, courtroom drama as put on TV. But at the end of the day, the courts don't always do what is right. They necessarily, they'll do what's in the best interest of, according to the law. And I just don't know that the law ultimately down the road is going to be on our side. I think that if we kick the can on this one, I think it's going to come back to hurt us. But so again, it's not an easy decision, and that I'm going to make in a few minutes.
It's not an easy decision. And one last thing is, I would say the applicant could make a choice, the applicant could make a choice to sell the 3 acres of open space and build one home, and we would be done. And so it does come back to me to what's driving this. And it's clearly the applicant's financial interests, which, like I said, I'm sympathetic to.
No doubt about that.
But it is, in my opinion, not my job, not our job to accommodate that person's financial interests. And that bothers me about this a lot.
But there's been a lot of talk about compromising with the person who is the owner of the property. And from what I've heard and from what I've just talked about and what we've read, it doesn't seem to me like he is in the position or has the acuity or the desire to make a compromise.
Okay. I think with that, if everyone's good, I think I'll ask for a roll call vote on the ordinance now. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Oh, it pains me to vote yes, but yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
No.
Ms. Guariglia?
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy?
Yes. I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 26-22 approved and adopted and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. Madam Clerk, can you please read the title of the 4th ordinance into the record, and then we will open the public hearing.
27-22, an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris establishing an electric and/or natural gas aggregation program.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing for any comments on the establishment of the energy aggregation program. If you'd like to speak in person, please come up to the podium. If you'd like to speak on Zoom, please raise your hand. May I now have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance number 27-22?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Seeing no hands raised on Zoom and no members of the public coming to the podium in person, is there a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any, I'm sorry, can I have an all in favor on closing the public? Aye.
Aye.
May I now have a motion to adopt ordinance number 27-22? Okay, any discussion items or questions? One, I'll just comment. I would like to commend Deputy Mayor Wilson and the Environmental Commission on pushing forward this initiative for many years, going back to Dan Faulkner when he was the Environmental Commission Chair, Buzz Kenny as well, and Brian Morgan, the current chair. I'd also like to recognize Cease Kent and Josh Sachs for all of their work on the Environmental Commission pushing forward the energy aggregation ordinance. This is going to provide a lot of opportunities for the township and our residents to hopefully down the road increase the percentage of renewable sources for our electricity for our residents. And I think it's a great initiative to move forward. But Deputy Mayor Wilson, did you want to provide any comments?
Well, I would just ditto what you said. The EC's been working on this for a long time, especially Cease Kent, Josh Sachs. They put a lot of time and work into doing the background on this. And I would just say, for the benefit of the public, this ordinance does not commit us to any kind of an aggregation agreement. It affirms that we're committed to exploring possibilities. And it opens the door to us to work with consultants who are experts in the field and who will work with both our professionals and with the public to help everyone understand how this works. Right now, the market is not favorable to that kind of a deal. It may take months, it could be longer before markets become more favorable. So when and if that ever happens, having passed this ordinance, we're ready. And I am expecting that you'll be seeing more information about this as we bring the consultants on. So I'm very glad that we've reached this point. It's been kind of a team effort.
Yes, congratulations
Thank you.
on getting it across the finish line.
Thank you.
Too, on the governing body level. Any other comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, we have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Ravitz?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia?
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy?
Yes. I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 27-22 approved and adopted, and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. Madam Clerk, if you please read the title of the fifth ordinance into the record, and we'll open the public hearing.
28-22, ordinance appropriating $800,000 available in the sewer capital fund balance for Woodland sewage treatment plant internal recycle system improvements.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing for any comments from the public. May I please have a motion to open it for ordinance number 28-22?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any members of the public wishing to speak? Raise your digital hand or come to the podium. Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. May I now have a motion to adopt ordinance number 28-22?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion or questions from the committee? And this is funding appropriation for sewer improvement projects. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia?
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy?
Yes. I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 28-22 approved and adopted, and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the sixth ordinance into the record, and we'll then open the public hearing.
29-22, an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, amending Chapter 367 of the Township Code to regulate township pickleball courts.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And just to a note to the public, this is for amending the fee, establishing fees for the courts. This is not about establishing the rules. Those were promulgated by the Parks and Rec Department and the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. At this time, we'll open the public hearing for any comments from the public. May I please have a motion to open the hearing on ordinance number 29-22?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any members of the public wishing to speak on the pickleball fees and registration ordinance? Seeing none in person and seeing none on Zoom, is there a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now have a motion to adopt ordinance number 29-22.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Mr. Ravitz, did you want to speak about this? Or you want?
No, I'll be brief. I'm thrilled that we made a major step forward in the pickleball. Not the rules, so to speak, because we're not here to discuss that, but in the fees. We, as I've said many times before, there's a lot that we don't know about pickleball because it's so new and exploding in the country. I do want to say that, you know, other towns are building their own pickleball courts, but we have 6 in one spot and they are top notch. So people are going to come from out of town to play on our courts. Not that we want to discourage people, but we do want to make sure that we give our residents an opportunity to play at the times that they want to play. So we think that this ordinance for establishing pricing and usage by guest players is very fair. But I will say that this is our first stab at this, and we will revisit this throughout the year as we get lots of feedback from pickleballers. And we, of course, will reserve the right to make amendments to any fees based on, you know, empirical evidence and usage. That's it.
Well said.
Thank you, Mr. Ravitz. Well said. I just want to thank members of the public who worked with us on this over the past several months, especially with the rules and the fees. And I'm optimistic that things will improve. And if there are challenges we face in the coming year, we will work with the public again and those using the courts to modify them as necessary. So thank you for your work on this. Thank you, Bill Fulch and Mr. Quinn and the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. I know Richard Maurer and Andrea worked hard on it as well. So want to thank everyone for their collaboration and thank members of the public who are here tonight who have come to previous meetings to talk about it. So with that, Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Ravitz?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia?
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy?
Yes. I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 29-22 approved and adopted and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. Okay, moving on to resolutions. We have 18 resolutions on tonight's agenda. Resolution 238-22 has already been voted on during the ordinance portion of the meeting. May I please have a motion to approve resolutions numbers 237-22, I'm sorry, and 239-22 through 255-22 by one motion.
So moved.
Second.
Do we need a roll call vote on that motion or just an all in favor? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then now may I have a roll call vote on 237-22 in addition to 239-22.
Mayor, just for the record, 237 was approved. That was the Peter Mancuso resolution.
Okay.
So we're voting on 239.
I don't think we actually voted on that.
Oh, we didn't vote on it?
No.
Yeah, we just
Oh, we just
recognized.
recognized? I apologize, Mayor.
I don't know, Peter, what do you think? No, we're just putting you on the spot. So with that,
I know.
can we have a roll call on 237-22, 239-22 through 255-22?
Mr. Ravitz?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Reluctantly.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia?
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy?
Yes. We have 3 items on the consent calendar this evening. May I please have a motion to approve the 3 items on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Consideration of monthly reports. We have received reports from the Finance, Fire, Joint Court, Police departments for October 2022 and the Library, Tax Collector, Finance, Fire, Joint Court, and Police for November 2022. May I please have a motion to approve those monthly reports?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
For claims for payment. A total amount of bills and vouchers for this meeting is $9,513,618.43. As a reminder, we're also the tax collector for the school district, the library, and the county of Morris. May I please have a motion to approve the list of bills and vouchers?
I love for that, sir.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia?
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy?
Yes. Moving on to committee reports and commentary. At this time, I'll recognize members of the Township Committee for their standing committee reports and general commentary. And I will start this evening with our Mayor Emeritus, Mr. Mancuso.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I have said enough tonight, and we've done enough in recognition of myself. I appreciate everything you've all done. It's been a wonderful situation. It was a great ride, and I'll miss being here, and I'll miss you people especially, but it's been great, and I just thank you so much for the recognition tonight.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for everything you've done on behalf of our town. Mrs. Guariglia?
Thank you, Mayor. On DPW, I'm just going to report December 23rd large item trash pickup. You can either call 973-326-7398 or we request an appointment online. In observance of Christmas Day, December 26, 2022, the Department of Public Works will be closed and no collection services will take place. You'll find the trash and recycling schedule for the week of December 26th through the 30th on the Morris Township website. We apologize for any inconvenience that this may cause and thank you for your anticipated cooperation. We are ready for winter and snow removal. The DPW trucks and equipment have been serviced and we are ready for any storm response. Plow and salt spreaders are ready to be affixed to our trucks. Manpower is good and our salt dome is filled to capacity. Parks and Sewer Department trucks and personnel are ready to assist with snow removal at their facilities and to assist DPW. Our Buildings and Grounds personnel will address the municipal building, police headquarters, municipal lots, walkways, sidewalks, steps, and pedestrian areas. Our Fire Department will be plowing the firehouse ramps and parking lots to ensure that we can get the apparatus out. I was sorry to miss the Whippany River Watershed event where they did paint and sip, but saw some of the paintings and they were very well done. I know Committeewoman Wilson will also talk about the Environmental Commission, but I just wanted to say there's a really good list of 2023 goals that the commission came up with, so their good work will continue. And on the Transportation Advisory Committee, also Committeewoman Wilson will update you. But we did review the 2021 tax survey recommendations. So I'm getting up to speed there and look forward to continuing the good work with the committee and the new appointees for 2023. For my December commentary, I just want to mention a couple holiday celebrations that I did attend. The Interfaith Celebration of Light took place this past Sunday in Morris Township. The event was sponsored by the Jewish Federation and the Community Leaders Against Hate Council. It took place at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The message of light and words and music by community leaders from all faiths was very inspiring. We also attended Hanukkah on the Green, which returned to Morristown this past Sunday as well. This marks the start of Judaism's Festival of Lights. The free event featured the lighting of the menorah, donuts, hot drinks, holiday music, a raffle, and the Great Chocolate Gelt Drop. The League of Women Voters also held a party at the historic Willow Hall on Speedwell Avenue. And I mention this because I was surprised at how many people had never been to Willow Hall on Speedwell Avenue before, which was built in 1848 by George Vail. So anyone in the township, if you get a chance, you really should stop by there. As this year comes to a close, I do want to thank everyone who has helped me in a short period of time and made me feel so welcome, not only on the Township Committee, but on all the committees I had to jump into rather quickly. It has been a pleasure to meet so many new dedicated people who serve our community because they care deeply about what affects all of us. Our Township employees, police, fire, and EMS departments are the best around. 2023 will certainly present its challenges, and we will rise to meet them. Our leadership team is excellent, and I encourage everyone to look to the new year with hope and anticipation of better things to come. Whatever you celebrate this holiday season, do it with purpose and enthusiasm. All the best to you and yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Committeewoman Guariglia. Committeeman Ravitz.
Thank you, Mayor. I think tonight I'll be uncharacteristically short in what I'm going to say. I really want to, again, thank all the residents that have come out tonight to voice their concerns, opinions, and whatnot, whether they be here in person or on Zoom. Democracy does work best when people are involved and engaged. So your comments were very well received. For committee reports, I really am going to keep it brief. I'm going to update you on where we are on the Collinsville, Tucker Field restoration. We sent out a mailer, actually 2 mailers. We've received about 10% response rate so far, and I think the survey is open till next week. So I urge those who are within earshot to please do get back to surveys, because resident input on what they'd like to see at Collinsville and at Tucker Field is really, really important. We have getting ready for the next phase in January, where we're going to be meeting with stakeholders. I think there's 4 meetings set up with stakeholders, community leaders, whatnot, to hear what they have to say about Collinsville. So we are looking forward to getting that input. But resident input is also very key. So again, going back to that, please get back the surveys that were mailed to you. Moving on, that's really the only committee report I want to talk about tonight. The rest is I just want to express my sincere gratitude and applaud the efforts of my colleagues on the dais for 2022. We had a very productive year, and there were many worthy accomplishments, and we worked in the true spirit of bipartisanship to deliver for our residents. And I'm especially going to miss the presence in the council and the close friendship of my friend Peter here in meetings and on the dais. 2023 is going to present some new and continuing challenges for all of us. But I think that we're all as prepared as can be expected for next year. We have a great incoming leadership team, and we're looking forward to representing the interests of the township and of our residents. We encourage you to continue to provide us feedback. It helps us to make better decisions as your elected representatives. Kind of on a winter solstice note, today is the solstice. And so now darkness will be receding and giving way to light. And so there's always reasons for renewed hope with the winter solstice. As always, I'm going to end my commentary with the following, that we should not be marginalizing or demonizing the people who have less political or economic power that some of us now enjoy. Rather, let's face up to and stand up to those who continue to profit from our division. And I'll say it, I have said it every month here on the dais. I've said it before tonight. We have more in common than should ever divide us, but we have to relearn how to talk to each other and not at each other. Amplifying misinformation, hateful or violent rhetoric is not part of any civil political discourse or any discourse whatsoever. And let's remember, as you go about your business, to be kind out there. Kindness goes a long way. And from my home to yours, I wish you all a joyous holiday season, no matter what you might celebrate or how you might celebrate it. God bless you all. God bless Morris Township and the United States of America. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Ravitz. Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Thank you. So on the environment, I just have 2 points I want to highlight. One is that we did obtain Sustainable Jersey certification, and we were thrilled to be recognized at the League of Municipalities Conference in November for doing this. Great accomplishment for our community. We're really proud. And I will say that our EC is very jazzed up about this. They're already working on a grant for materials and equipment that will help us take our outreach to the next level. So we plan to continue using Sustainable Jersey as a resource in our efforts in the coming year. I also wanted to highlight our farmers market is open this year. It opened a little earlier. It's really great. It's made possible by our partnership with Grow It Green. It is from 9 to 1 o'clock on Sundays through April 9th at Convent Station. And it has a lot of really interesting locally grown and prepared food items and other craft items locally made. So I just encourage everyone to go. It's a really wonderful market. But I will say they are closed 2 Sundays over the holidays. So they will be reopening on January 8th. And I encourage everybody to check it out. On transportation, yes, as Donna mentioned, I thought it was a very interesting activity at last week's meeting. We reviewed the recommendations. This is the Transportation Committee. We reviewed the recommendations from the survey that was done, I think it was about 2 years ago. And it was a great way to look back, reflect on what we've accomplished, and identify things have not yet been done and putting them on the goals list for the year ahead. So we're happy. We've made good progress. The point of TAC is to explore ways to and recommend ways to improve walking, biking, driving, and parking in our town. And many ideas came out of this discussion of the survey results that'll be on next year's goals list. And I have to say, just one little thing aside on the survey, revisiting this survey made me think of the expression "see with new eyes." This was an incredibly well done survey, and that was largely due to the work of Randy Edmond, who has since moved on from TAC. But I really want to thank him for he worked really hard. He brought great professional expertise to this. And I want to let him know that the legacy of his work continues, and thank him. On our seniors committee, 2 major projects from this year. One was a survey. We're ready to go on the survey. It's ready, and we'll be submitting it to the administration. I mean, I have it right now. I just haven't turned it in, but it's ready to go, and we're planning to sort of launch it electronically in January. And so that will be coming, and it was news to me in preparing this. We checked our demographics, and I thought it was interesting that we have 6,835 people in Morris Township age 60 and above. So hopefully our goal is to get at least 500 responses, and with those kind of numbers, maybe more. So, and the other goal was the website. We've done a ton of work on that. We still have to go through, I call it the policy approval process. So coming soon, we're finalizing the links, and we're hoping to get the initial, which I think is the most heavy lift, getting the initial information on there of existing resources. Our hope is to get that up hopefully we'd love to do mid-January, but realistically, probably the end of January. On the Economic Development Committee, one of their big projects this year was doing the visioning for the Madison Avenue corridor. They did a survey, and they also did focus groups. And it's been a big job to pull all this information together. And they've taken input from some of the other advisory boards, and the recommendations are being finalized now. So they should be coming out in the very beginning of the year. And I know they have plans to share their recommendations with our other advisory boards, the Environmental Commission, TAC, the Planning Board, and of course, the governing body. But I like the way they're sharing the results with the other advisory boards. I think that's a good thing for us to do, so all the boards are aware of what each other is doing. On general comments, I would just say it's been a long time since our last meeting. A lot has happened. It seems like a long time ago, but I did want to just comment on Veterans Day. And this year, at Mayor Gyorfy's suggestion, I and Mr. Ravitz and others joined the veterans for the early morning laying of the wreath. I think you were out of town, but it was so moving. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was an extremely memorable way to honor our veterans and remember their contributions, not only to our local history, but to the history of our country. So let's see here. And I wanted to say congratulations to we are hiring 2 new police officers, Kevin Smith, George Chanturia. Peter and I both participated in those interviews, excellent candidates. And I know they're very well prepared to serve our community. So congratulations to both of them. And finally, I don't think we said anything up to Donna in the beginning. I just want to come back to her, congratulate Donna. She's been sworn in now several times. So I want to welcome you on board again. And we love having you with us. And you're doing such a great job of jumping in all these different projects. It's really hard to jump in and get up to speed on all the different things that are going on. But you're doing a fabulous job and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Kathy. And you know, you're a big reason why I'm even here. So
that's true. We know each other, and I did reach out and you accepted, and we're very glad. So, and also I just want to say, Peter, it's been such a, like you said, such a ride. It's been so amazing to know you. And as I said earlier, you do remind me of my dad, and I loved him dearly. And I thank you for being who you are and all that you do for our community. It's really appreciated.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. So that's it. And I want to happy holidays and happy new year to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wilson. And I think, Donna, we forgot to mention your swearing in because you hit the ground running a few months ago and you're already a seasoned member of the Township Committee. So it didn't even dawn on us that you were actually just sworn in for the remainder of your term. You've done so well. So congratulations and thank you for everything. For my standing committees, for engineering, I just want to report that notices from the engineering department went out to residents on Sussex Avenue for our sidewalk extension project that the funds were approved in previous year's budgets, and we'll be moving forward with that install in the spring. I also know that notices went out to members or residents on Overlook Road for their resurfacing project for next year. I also believe we received Transport DOT grant funding for Woodland Ave and was it Whitehead or Indian Head? Whitehead Road for resurfacing from the state. So we got 2 state grants for resurfacing projects in the township when most of the municipalities across the state just get 1 grant. So we're very fortunate to get that. Yeah, the first time we've ever gotten 2 grants. So thank you to the engineering department and Tim for working on those grants for those. For legislation, I wanted to highlight 2 things. One, on the resolutions tonight, we supported a measure introduced by Congresswoman Sherrill dealing with auto thefts. The Congresswoman introduced a bipartisan bill in the House of Representatives, basically establishing a new grant program for municipalities like ours, who are often overlooked in the grant process. A lot of times federal grants are based off of formulas, and a lot of times towns that are our size miss out on opportunities of federal dollars coming back. And this legislation that she has introduced would provide funding and availability of funding for police departments like ours to purchase equipment that'll help us combat auto thefts here in New Jersey. So we passed that resolution, and I thank the Congresswoman for introducing that. Also, for legislation, I wanted to note a piece of legislation being introduced in the State House that I'm excited about. So in the fire department over the past few years, we've been trained on exposures a lot more because a lot of firefighters across the country are getting sick. They're developing rare types of cancers that we haven't seen before. And a lot of times it's from exposures from chemicals or toxins that are inhaled on the fire grounds. It's also from toxins and chemicals that are inhaled in the firehouses themselves or other things. So, abating exposure is a major focus of the fire service now. And one thing that the state of New Jersey, in the State House, there's a bill to require all career firefighters to have the opportunity to get screened for cancer at no cost. And that bill is great because there are a lot of career firefighters in New Jersey. However, there is a much larger percentage of our firefighters are volunteers. And that bill does not cover volunteer firefighters. So I'm pleased to have gotten a receptive audience from Senator Vin Gopal of Monmouth County. He introduced the career firefighter cancer screening bill, and he has now introduced a volunteer firefighter cancer screening bill that would guarantee volunteer firefighters across the state of New Jersey to have access to free cancer screenings if they wish. So we'll be working on supporting that and moving forward, and it's a big step forward. And I appreciate the senator's support for that. Peter, I said a lot before, we all have, but we're going to miss you terribly up here on the dais. You've provided over the, my tenure on the committee and other members' tenure, you've been such a valuable resource to the Township Committee. Your heart and soul is in Morris Township. And having you, there's going to be a big gap here next year without having you up here with us. We're losing a little bit, as a sense of, the character of our Township Committee. But we just can't thank you enough for all the work you've done over the years for our residents, for residents across the county, for everyone who was involved in all the other organizations you were involved with. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you've done. Thank you, Peter. And with that, I will just wish everyone happy holidays. Thank you to the members of the public who are still with us this evening and who have joined us not only tonight, but throughout the year. And left on the agenda is our final public comment period. So we have 16 members of the public who are still with us on Zoom. We have members of the public here in person. So I'll now open the second public comment portion for general commentary. We'll take in-person attendees first, then move to Zoom. Just as a reminder, please state your name and address for the record. May I please have a motion to open the final public portion?
So moved.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I just have a question. My name is Amanda Wilberg, 249 Mount Kemble Ave. Is it normal for this many people to speak up against an ordinance and say no, and then have the board say yes to it? Is that a normal thing that happens?
We have, as a governing body, we have to represent the interests of not only the people in this room, but also the residents who are not in this room. And we make determinations on how we vote based on the township and the public at large. And that's how I'll respond to that.
Sure, but is this does this happen where everybody comes and says no and then the board still says yes? Like the committee still votes yes? Does that happen? Has that happened before?
Yes.
That happens. Okay, so that would you say?
I'm being serious and genuine. I'm not just being dismissive, but yes, in certain instances we do have people.
Does it happen
opposed to
regularly?
measures.
Would you say it happens
Yes.
regularly that the town comes out and voices their opinion and then the committee does something different?
I would say it is normal.
Oh, that's something new that I did not know. Thank you. I just want to say that I don't know why. I don't feel like at any point anyone explained really why they thought we would lose in court. Just this overarching fear didn't seem like enough of a reason for everybody to vote against it. So I am very disappointed in most of the members of the committee and how you chose to vote. Will the planning board have to approve, or now that it goes to the planning board, will they have to go through with this? Are their hands now tied because you all voted for this? Or does the planning board have a chance to say, no, this doesn't go with what we were,
I think the thought was the application would be as of right. So we have no authority to tell the planning board what to do, but it's after this passes, the application should be as of right.
So if the planning board says no, then it could be done and.
Well, if the planning board said no and it was an as of right application, that certainly would lead to litigation and liability.
My understanding,
could
if I
be
may,
correct, sure.
is that what this does is rezone those 2.5 acres to RA 15, and that 4 homes can be built there with no need for further variances.
But what about no steep slope variance? No, like, so nothing will stop them now.
Your question was, can the planning board say no?
Right.
The answer is no.
Oh,
The 4 homes come with what goes to the planning board. It, in my opinion, remains to be seen what, additional conditions the planning board could place, but they cannot override the 4 homes.
And does that go to the Board of Adjustment after the planning
No.
board? So the planning board is out, it's
Planning
basically
board is
done.
out.
It's done.
I mean, the zoning board is out.
But the planning, so it's basically done. There's really nothing that
It
can be
goes
done.
to the planning board and there's public input at the planning board, but to your question, they cannot say no to 4 homes.
Okay. All right.
I'm correct, right?
I think you just expanded upon what I was saying.
Yeah.
So what's the point of it going to planning board then?
They have to do site plan, right?
Yeah, they have to get approvals. There's other things.
For what? Like, I don't understand. If
Well,
you
we
said they
didn't-
can't say no to anything, then what are they
The
going there?
landscaping, the different things that were talked about.
So like so
trees.
So like the little things.
Property still needs to be subdivided as well.
They could subdivide it?
Has to be.
I thought it was rezoned to allow so the planning board just does a subdivide? They don't do anything else? This was a question I had, actually.
The 4 lots have to be subdivided with what's left into the RA 15.
The 2.5 acres.
We're taking up.
Oh, I'm okay. I like
Here you
these
go.
questions.
Go.
I'm with her.
Go ahead.
Did you want to, I'm fine with you continuing.
I was just responding to your
Yeah.
question. Can the planning board say no to 4 homes?
Right.
The answer is no.
Okay. But can they say no for other reasons? Like, because, for all the different reasons that they had said no before. So they can't say no because of steep slope. They can't say no because of environmental concerns or because of like where the lighting is going to be, like the things like that. They can't say no. No. Okay. So we have no hope. Okay. Well, I would like to say good luck, anybody who's listening, to the rest of the town. If you have a lot next to you, they can change the zone. Good luck.
Hi, Teresa Piliero, 23 Pippins Way, Morris Township. So thank you to Deputy Mayor Wilson for the work you did. We came tonight, my friend and I, for pickleball, just to hear, you vote on that. And it was an eye-opening session for me and a disappointing session for me. This is the 3rd time that I have witnessed outrage and it has no impact. And so it doesn't feel like democracy works when that happens. And so I feel for all of the residents here. And yeah, it was a discouraging night.
Julie Winter, 210 Mount Kimball. Can we find out why it was originally rezoned OSGU from RA 25? Is there any way of finding that out?
Would that be up to the clerk's office or?
In 2006, it was rezoned.
Can you
think that
It's in that ordinance.
it was no longer needed for, it was originally what, TH4 or what?
The 2006 ordinance rezoned that property to OSGU from what it was prior. It's right before that, it was RH5, which I call the affordable
Oh,
housing
I thought it was
zone.
RH RH25, so it was RH5?
It was RH5
'cause
from
I had heard that that was a
1983 to
mistake.
2006.
Okay, but do we know why it was changed?
That property is no longer needed for affordable housing.
What's that?
It was no longer needed for affordable housing at that time.
I mean,
RH5.
I'm glad it's not affordable housing there, but it just
No,
seems
it-
odd that they wouldn't keep that in your back pocket. Why did somebody? I would think there should be documentation of why it was changed.
It says in the ordinance.
It does.
Yes, that we're changing this because this property is no longer needed for affordable housing.
And that's strictly why?
That's what it says in the ordinance.
Okay. And what's to prevent this ordinance from the developer buying the property next door doing the same thing? Saying, well, I want to put in 11 homes, or, you did it next door. Why can't I do it here? I mean, you said it won't act as precedence, but to me, hello. And Springbrook wants to modify their property. I think we've opened up a can of worms. And then my last question is, can an ordinance be appealed? And can the township appeal it? Can residents ask to have it appealed? Have we ever had one appealed?
There is a legal process. You can consult an attorney, you can look, but there is a process to object to an ordinance. You have to file an action in Superior Court.
Okay. Has the township ever had one appealed?
Since I've been counsel, I don't know, but I can tell you that throughout the state, at times, ordinances are challenged.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Good evening, Diane Holland, 26 Northbridge Place. I haven't been here much since the pandemic, so I have just some observations coming back. We used to have, and we've had some issues along the way, but we used to have the township Wi-Fi, which is, I see it, but we used to have the password on the wall, and that seems to have disappeared. Is there some reason that it was taken down?
No, we can put that back up. Thank you for reminding us.
Okay.
Yes, we'll give it to them.
We had the building was closed for a while, so it must have been removed, and we forgot to put it back up, so we'll put it back up.
Because the COVID signs are up. Okay. All right. The town, from what I observed last month and this month, the town seems to have moved from comments, originally from comments only after the complete meeting to comments before and after. That seems now to be adjusted to comments only on the agenda in the beginning. Was that something that the committee agreed on?
We didn't take a vote, but I took a census vote, a straw poll that for this year, for the agendas, we thought it would be best to stick to the topics that we would be voting on to begin with, and then have general commentary after. We have made exceptions in the past where folks who had to leave early, we allowed them to speak during the early public, including I believe the comments on the swim pools back in the summer. But the consensus it wasn't a unanimous consensus, but the consensus of the Township Committee was to have agenda items only in the first public comment.
That's a diminution of access and service and a retreat from the advances that control of the Township Committee has achieved in the past. I strongly urge you to allow early comments on anything, although I realize these are my old notes, and seeing comments on resolutions, they should stay at that point. So I adjust my notes, but I strongly urge you to allow early comments with a time limitation, in addition to comments at the end of the meeting, such as this. I have a question for, I guess I have to ask you, but it really goes to Deputy Mayor Wilson. The over 6,000 residents who are over 60 years old. What percentage of our population is that?
Well, it's about what, 7,000. So our population's about 24,000, 23,000.
About 25%.
What he said. 25%.
Well, that would be 28,000.
No,
if you're at
we're-
7,000.
We're
So
not quite 24,000.
We're not quite
You said
24.
6,000, right?
Six,
I mean,
6835.
Yeah, so it's more than 25. It's a
so it's a
third.
little more. So it's about 20.
Third, give or take. Okay, all right. I just didn't know that. And now in public, I will also again thank Peter for all of his service over the many years. As everyone has said, you are a gentleman, and it's wonderful that you have spent so much time here. And I'm sure that you will always be welcome back to sit here in the audience as a regular resident of the town. So thank you
so much, Diane. I
You're welcome.
appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Diane. Mr. Goldberg.
Lee Goldberg, 10 Arrowhead Road. Just sort of a governance observation. Earlier, when we closed, we didn't allow for a second round. I know Mr. Cantor was speaking something about the planning board. I'll ask you about that in a second. I know Senator Bucco earlier this evening was talking about compromise. Peter brought up the concept of compromise earlier. Maybe in the future, a compromise could be just limiting it to maybe just 2 minutes for a second round. So that's something that you might want to take into consideration just in terms of good governance and the running of the meetings would be just a suggestion. So Mr. Cantor, so as I was walking away, I think I had a question about, when is the litigation considered to be over? And you said something about I didn't hear what you said, or when you look something up and when it's actually considered to be the litigation over. If you could just enlighten me on that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Goldberg, you asked a question, and then I think I didn't have the answer in front of me, but I looked it up in the settlement agreement. So when you went away, I said it was paragraph 4 of the settlement agreement, which provides dismissal within 10 days of the developer having received approval of the developer's subdivision plan from the Morris Township Planning Board. So you asked me when the litigation would end, and I said, you asked me if this ended it, and I said, no, there
No.
were other approvals required.
Right.
And then I clarified it by reading the settlement agreement after you stepped back from the podium.
Okay, thank you for providing that clarification. And then just going back, I think someone had asked a question about whether or not a supermajority vote was required on this. I know at the zoning board, at the Board of Adjustment, a supermajority was required. I'm not an attorney, so that's why I'm asking you. I would expect that to be consistent across the committee and the board. Why would it be a departure from that?
So Mr. Goldberg, I had that same exact question. I got an opinion from our professional who said it was a simple majority, and I got that. So that's the answer.
4 votes in the affirmative is a supermajority too, right? You're
Well,
talking
we
about a
achieved the
unanimous-
supermajority tonight,
Yeah,
but the opinion was a simple majority.
Board of Adjustment is definitely.
Right.
The ordinance actually, it actually got adopted, but it didn't have the full 5 that's required for D1. If it was before the planning board, it would have been approved.
Okay, thank you. It was just a question I had as to whether there's that supermajority sort of consistency need for it carries from one board to the township committee. So thank you for clarifying that. In terms of the vote tonight on 257 Mount Campbell, naturally, I came out here to urge our representatives to not support it. It didn't go that way. I appreciate your time and attention on it. I would like to especially thank Committeewoman Wilson for your time, thoughtfulness, studious nature of it, looking at the record, arriving at your conclusions and just sort of laying that out. I could have sat through the 30 hours of testimony on the application. I could understand it. I could accept it. So thank you for that time and attention. In terms of the other committee members, the rationale that was put forward about, not having a crystal ball and what might happen in court, and you just never know, and this is the best alternative, and we're none of that really resonated with me. I didn't really understand it. So unfortunately, I'm leaving here tonight and not, for my own personal self, not being able to accept it because I don't understand the logic. And the last thing I'll say on it is in terms of the good men and women who do serve on the zoning board and the planning board and dedicate their time, energy, and attentions on this. I know from the zoning board members that I serve with, we have in the forefront of our minds constantly and always what's in the best interest in the residents for Morris Township when we make our decisions. So to hear tonight that, that's what sort of this committee is weighing in on in their thought processes and their decision sort of, leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I'll just leave it at that. So, but I appreciate the time and attention, you sharing your thoughts on it. And that's all I have to say on that. Peter, as I mentioned to you earlier, it's been, like I said, I've been coming to these meetings for a long time. We've sat through a lot of applications, a lot of interesting scenarios that have presented over the years, but you've always, come at it with great intention, genuine intention. Thank you for all your service and all you've done on behalf of us all, serving for us and being our representatives. So I appreciate it and thank you for that. And wish everyone all the best of health and good fortune in the new year. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Goldberg.
so much, sir.
And I commend your work on the Board of Adjustment. And just like the members of the Board of Adjustment, the members of the Township Committee are also dedicated to serving the best interests of the township. We have different jurisdictions, obviously, and different nature of our work, but every member of this governing body is also representing what they believe and feel in their hearts is in the best interests of our residents. I see Mike Gutwillig has his hand raised on Zoom, so we'll move to the virtual public portion.
Hello, yes, sorry. Well, I guess there's a couple questions. So when will the committee start to deem it okay in the best interest of everyone in general to start to allow development in, say, the Green Acres or some of the open spaces? How long is that going to take for that to start happening?
We can't develop on Green Acres or open space that's on the registry of open space.
Well, so was the zoning. Like a similar occasion on 350 Mount Campbell.
Sir, I just want to clarify if something, and Mr. Quinn or Mr. Kanzer can jump in, something zoned as open space but is not on the Rossi is different than something just than open space that is actually on the registry of open space. I just want to clarify that there's a difference.
So zoning rules and regulations and master plans, while they're supposed to uphold some kind of regulations, doesn't seem to think that now there wouldn't be some kind of change for the open spaces in Green Acres. Then if you can change the zoning and the ordinances to reflect the better interest of the town, then if it was better interest of the town to start building houses in Green Acres and open spaces, that I suppose that you would be able to do that too, then I guess.
We don't build on open.
We can't build on Green Acres or open space that's on the Rossi.
And the likelihood of building on township-owned property.
And we wouldn't, I would also say if it's township-owned property, there is not a high likelihood that we would develop that land either.
Such as this 3 acres we're getting.
So you're saying like similar to like the way Harding decided to develop over on 350 Mount Campbell on wetlands. So they were kind of just able to make that decision. So I suppose you guys could do something like that too then, right?
It's hypothetical. I'm not sure. Harding didn't own that property, right? So it wasn't them pushing the development. It was an applicant. But like I said, we can't develop Green Acres. We can't develop open space that's on the Rossi, and we wouldn't develop our own property.
The properties you're referring to are owned by
and
individuals and property owners, not by government entities.
So nothing really positive to say about this at all then, I suppose. Well, I guess, Peter, it's a sad day to have to go out on a note like this. So Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time. Seeing no further hands raised, is there a motion to close the public portion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The time is now 10:16 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn the regular session, please?
May I do that, sir?
Yes, you may.
I make a motion that we close the meeting and enjoy our Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa holiday. And once again, I thank you all for the consideration, for the kind words, and for just being my friends. God bless you all.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for everything.
God bless you.
Still got you for 9 more days.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
The next Township Committee meeting will be held on Wednesday, January 4th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in person and via Zoom. This will be our reorganization meeting. Have a good night, everyone.